He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, the golden child of a legendary righteous bloodline. But he threw it all away. He crossed over to the dark side, morphing into a hated traitor despised by the entire world. Why all to protect his childhood sweetheart? He dragged himself through hell and literally turned himself into a monster just to keep her breathing. When the ultimate bloodbath between the forces of light and the demonic realm finally ignited, the heavenly demon got absolutely obliterated on the battlefield, completely wiping out the demonic army. And our guy, he ended up chained up as a prisoner of war. A stunning young woman glared deep into his soul, practically screaming, "Where the hell is the rest of your demonic trash hiding?" Coughing up blood, he kept his mouth completely shut, battered and bruised. All he could do was stare blankly at the girl, looming over him. This was Yiseola Guyongchan's childhood sweetheart, and the absolute prodigy of the Sword Venerable. During the massive war, she had mercilessly butchered endless waves of demons, with just a single devastating swing of her blade, before stepping up to execute the heavenly demon with her own bare hands. Since that brutal day, Yiseola was worshipped globally as the divine sword. But right here, right now, she was violently grabbing his collar, desperately screaming the same question. Where did the surviving demons escape to? If you have even a tiny drop of humanity left in your cold blood, give me the truth. Guyongchan was dying to spit it out, but a lethal curse had been locked around his heart for ages. The absolute second he leaked the secret, his body would detonate into pieces. Completely clueless about his deadly gag order, Yiseola kept aggressively pushing. Just open your mouth and I swear I will do whatever it takes to keep you breathing. By this point, even the legendary hero was on the edge of a total mental breakdown. Watching him stay dead silent, her eyes welled up with furious tears, and her voice cracked as she literally started begging him. But Guyongchan figured she just harbored a deep venomous hatred for the demons. All because those monsters had supposedly snatched away her fiancé back in the day. How the heck could she know that the mysterious guy who actually pulled her from the wreckage had been him this entire time? A million heavy words were suffocating inside his chest. But ultimately, Guyongchan just let out a pathetic, quiet sigh. You are still just as clueless as you were when we were little kids. Seeing him keep up that exact same arrogant vibe, Yiseola totally snapped and shoved him hard against the cold ground. Shaking with absolute rage, she finally choked out. If I knew you would turn out to be this kind of trash, I would have ended your life the first day we met. As Guyongchan lay helpless at her boots, the tiny spark of hope that had fueled his entire life slowly faded to pitch black. If only things could stay as pure as the day they first crossed paths. Honestly, it felt like way too many ghosts from his past had dropped similar tragic lines on him, like when the young master of the Tang clan gasped out something identical while bleeding out. I was totally obsessed with you from the very first second I laid eyes on you. I fell ridiculously hard for you. Back then, Guyongchan had just stared at her like she was losing her mind. What kind of insane garbage are you spewing? You crazy lunatic, you literally just tried to murder me. At a brutal moment like this, I do not care what kind of sob story you drop. I am absolutely not letting you off the hook. Light and dark were never supposed to mix. We were destined to crash and burn like this. But if I leave this world without spilling my true feelings, would not that be a massive waste? If only the universe let me meet you sooner. Namgungi went out the exact same tragic way. Are those tears? No, the rain is just pouring too heavily. Oh, so it is just the rain. Hey, is the moon out yet? Yeah, it is out. It is glowing round and gorgeous, just like that very first night we hung out. Really, that is perfect. That is just perfect. Did she feel that exact same heartbreaking vibe right before she faded away? Looking back, when did everything spiral into this absolute nightmare? He was exhausted down to his bones, but honestly, none of it even mattered anymore. He was a certified traitor to humanity. No matter his hidden motives, this gruesome fate was his ultimate karma. Right as Yiseola turned her back on him in pure disgust, a sickeningly wet scraping sound echoed behind her. She whipped around, catching Guyongchan dragging his mangled fingers, agonizingly painting a message in his own blood on the stone floor. I am so sorry, second sister. In the bitter end, he still shattered his ultimate promise, forcing himself to live a miserable life. That was a compromise his soul simply refused to make. But the exact split second that final bloody letter was drawn, his chest practically detonated. That was the brutal reality of the demonic hex. Spill even a single secret, and your heart gets blown to absolute pieces. Seola scrambled to his side, her voice shaking violently as she desperately begged to know what went wrong. But the world had already gone dead silent for Yongchan. Whether he dug this grave himself or got completely set up, none of it mattered now. Through a blinding, soul-shredding agony, he forced his bloody finger across the dirt, scraping out a few final words. Sensing the horrible shift, Seola frantically threw herself over him, pumping healing magic into his fading body. But it was no use, his life force was entirely snuffed out. Despite the end, his battered, blood-soaked hand stubbornly traced out one last message. The moment she read it, Ciola completely shattered, sobbing uncontrollably. Hot tears continuously splashed against his pale cheeks. Honestly, she hadn't changed one bit. She was exactly the same soft-hearted girl from day one. But hey, maybe that was for the best. Ciola, please just survive and find your happy ending. Yet, a split second later his heavy eyelids fluttered open, only to reveal a tiny childhood version of Ciola standing right there, shyly offering him a dirty potato. Do you want this? Young-chan completely froze instantly, glancing down at his own hands. Hold on, this was their actual first encounter, and wait. This is what a normal beating heart actually feels like. But seriously, if he truly just respawned at the exact moment they first crossed paths, this had to be some kind of sick cosmic joke. The memory was painfully crystal clear. In his past life, his snooty, privileged self viciously swatted that roasted potato out of her hand, stomping it into the dirt right in front of her face. Who gave you permission to bring trash like this near me? Looking back at that cringe moment, Young-chan's face practically burned with intense shame. The suffocating stares of the crowd were too much for Ciola. Just as she shrank back ready to quietly reclaim her food, he lunged forward and snatched it right out of her hands. Appreciate it, I'm going to enjoy this. Without a second thought, Young-chan chomped down hard, but a split second later, he rocketed into the air, completely scorching his mouth, his brain totally short-circuited. Wait, hold up. Wasn't this supposed to be a dream? Then why the heck did that burn like pure fire? Before he could process the pain, his breathless servant scrambled onto the scene. Young master, why did you dash off like that? Young-chan just blinked at the guy, desperately digging through his memories to put a name to the face. Absolute blank. Zero clue. Meanwhile, the servant caught sight of his precious young master doing a frantic little dance of agony, and instantly lost his mind. You absolute peasant, how dare shut it? Young-chan snapped, silencing him instantly. Hand it over. The lackey froze, utterly bewildered. Hand what over? Young-chan kept his tone deadpan. The mystic fruit. You packed it. Right. Defeated, the servant reluctantly pulled it out. Sir, this is literally the last one. Young-chan ruthlessly swiped it from his grip. Less talking, more handing. He pivoted back to the little girl. You want this? Consider it a trade for the snack. It's all yours, kid. Ciola's eyes went wide, actual drool threatening to spill. The fruit was glowing, radiating this insanely sweet, mouth-watering aroma. She had never laid eyes on something so magical in her entire life. But just as she reached out, a panicked shout shattered the moment. Ciola, what are you doing over here? Didn't I explicitly tell you to hold on to Grandpa's hand? The girl whipped around, beaming. I'm okay, look, I kept the food totally safe, but the old man was practically vibrating with terror. Forget about the food. Are you hurt anywhere? Young-chan just stared dumbfounded at the trembling elder, cold sweat already dripping down his forehead. Seriously, who the heck is this guy? Before he could spiral further, Ciola happily chimed in. I actually shared one with him. The second those words dropped, the grandfather violently yanked her behind him, dropping into a desperate groveling bow. I am so sorry. My granddaughter is completely clueless about how the world works. Please forgive her for offending you, young master, but Young-chan casually waved it off. It's fine, sir. Don't sweat it. Nah, I should be the one thanking you. I was absolutely starving anyway. That potato of yours literally came in clutch and filled me right up. So if you're cool with it, take this medicinal fruit as my way of paying you back. But before her grandfather could even process the offer, Ciola instantly crashed the moment. Yes please, that sounds perfect, she squealed, eagerly swiping at the rare fruit. The old man instantly yanked the girl behind him. We appreciate the generosity, young master. We won't take up any more of your time. But Young-chan closed the distance in a flash, pressing the sweet fruit right into Ciola's tiny palms. A promise is a promise. Catch you around if destiny permits. That casual drop totally flipped the old man's perspective of the kid, making him mutter under his breath. So Ciola has already lost. But the second that grandfather-granddaughter duo vanished from sight, Young-chan practically drowned in a cold sweat, because in his past life that exact same fragile old man was chilling at the absolute pinnacle of the Muram world. He was a literal walking god, one of the three ultimate apex predators, the Sword Venerable, Hyogon. Just dropping his name sent pure terror down the spines of every dark faction out there. Why on earth was a legendary powerhouse wandering around this random slum? But hey, if he was just hallucinating in some fever dream, stressing over it was pointless. He figured he might as well bounce back home. Any second now he'd snap awake. Yet even after dragging his feet all the way to the massive Gu Clan compound, the reality refused to glitch out. What in the actual world was happening? Why wasn't the simulation ending? And why did the sensory details hit so unbelievably hard? Was this massive trip caused by the heavenly demon's curse? Right as his brain went into overdrive, a highly annoying, ear-piercing voice shattered his thoughts. Enter his lovely second older sister, Gu Yunsuk, famously known as the Crimson Blaze Sword. Oh wow, I definitely didn't peg a pathetic bottom feeder like you to actually show your face. She was literally his biggest hater within the family walls, flashing the most arrogant, highly punchable smirk imaginable. She scoffed. Listen here, loser. If you're scheming to pull some sneaky stunts, you better pray I don't catch you slipping. Yang Chan smoothly swatted her finger away. I just returned to the exact spot I belonged in, a long time ago. That single sentence instantly ignited her temper. Oh, so you finally realize you belong here. Then where have you been hiding this whole time, huh? He didn't even flinch, replying with absolute chill. The past was my bad. I'll deliver a personal apology to the patriarch later. Hearing him act all unbothered made her absolutely lose it. A useless piece of garbage. Has the audacity to talk back to me. Oh, you just crossed a line. But Yang Chan casually raised his hand, shutting down her tantrum. Dad's pulling up. The very millisecond those words dropped, a massive, insanely intimidating warhorse locked into everyone's view. Astride the beast was the absolute boss of the Shangxi Gu clan himself, his father Gu Qiulin. Despite experiencing a whole past life, the sheer suffocating aura his father radiated still almost buckled Yang Chan's knees. Seconds later, the patriarch shifted his heavy glare off his son, demanding a status update. The head butler was quick on the draw. Squad 1 just rolled in and is currently catching their breath. Squad 4 is holding position on standby. His dad delivered a frosty command. Tell the captain of Squad 4 to report to my quarters before the sun drops. Dropping those crisp orders, the clan leader marched straight into the grand manor. But without warning, his dad whipped around, his piercing eyes locking onto the boy. Third son, my office, post-dinner. And just like that, he vanished into the halls. Yang Chan immediately swapped shell-shocked glances with the surrounding maids and his fuming sister before deadpanning. Any of you guys carrying emergency laxatives? Fast forward to twilight, the entire bloodline assembled around the massive dining table. Anchoring the head of the room, his dad finally sliced through the heavy silence. Number 2. How is your martial progress tracking lately? Yunsuk instantly flipped the switch, flashing an angelic smile. I hit a major breakthrough recently, totally by pure luck. I actually just leveled up to a tier 3 martial artist. The patriarch gave a solid nod. Not bad. For someone your age, hitting that tier is top tier speed. Keep up the grind. I appreciate the praise, father. Right in that split second, Yang Chan locked eyes with his sister. The millisecond her face was out of their dad's radar, that fake sweet smile dissolved into absolute repulsion, like she was staring at a literal cockroach. Classic. His second sister was straight up terrifying, even back in childhood. Just then, his old man's heavy gaze locked dead onto him. Third son, word has it you visited the merchant district today. Gu Yongchan gave a stiff nod. Yeah, I just took a quick stroll around town. But his dad suddenly swallowed his words, completely freezing up like he was choking on a secret. Ultimately, he just pushed his chair back and walked out in dead silence. The second the door clicked shut, a maid slipped up from behind. Third young master, the head of the house, left you a message. He expects you in his quarters again tomorrow. Gu Yongchan's brain totally short-circuited. Like, what the heck was that supposed to mean? Pacing around his bedroom, a dark, intrusive thought immediately flashed through Gu Yongqian's mind. Should he just wipe out the heavenly demon right now, while the window of opportunity was still cracked open? But how could he possibly execute a literal monster destined to become one of the top 3 supreme powerhouses in the entire world? Chuckling bitterly, he scrapped the whole stupid plan. That demonic freak was fated to get slaughtered by Ye Seola's blade eventually anyway. His only mission was to lay low, stay completely out of the crossfire, and just survive until the dust settled. Shaking off those thoughts, Gu Yongchan scanned his current physical stats and practically scoffed out loud at his own weakness. Man, this level of power is absolutely pathetic. My second sister really is built different. Though to be fair, I never even bothered to put in half the grind she did. But that doesn't mean my fate is set in stone. Just like I suspected, I can totally rewrite the script here. Starting with mastering my family's 9 Flames fire wheel art. Once I hit rank 4, I can actually manifest fire skills. And by rank 7, I'll be manipulating raw infernos like a god. Except right now, I'm stuck at rock bottom rank 1. I seriously need to speedrun my breakthrough to rank 2 as fast as humanly possible. Without missing a beat, Gu Yongcheon dove straight into a brutal cultivation session, dripping buckets of sweat in no time. Okay, that's my absolute limit. If I push any harder, I'll definitely blow a blood vessel and trigger chi deviation. When the sun came up, his muscles were screaming in sheer agony. He viciously cursed under his breath. This vessel is unbelievably garbage. I've got one hell of a brutal grind ahead of me. But the absolute last thing he anticipated happened the split second he swung his door wide open. Chilling right on his doorstep was the one person he wanted to dodge the most, Ye Seola. Flashing a sugary sweet smile, she chirped, "Hey there, fancy seeing you here." But as the reincarnated Gu Young Cheon stared down at this little girl, alarm bells started ringing in his head. No, this is completely off. The timeline is wrong. They weren't supposed to cross paths this early. In his past life, their second encounter went down exclusively in the military barracks. Back when he was still rocking that toxic rich kid arrogance and stirred up massive chaos, which led to his old man chucking him straight into the 5th Army trenches under his oldest sister's command, where he got mercilessly tortured through basic training for 6 solid months. As absolute payback, that hellish camp was meant to be his actual second face-to-face with Ye Seola. Gu Young Chan let out a massive soul-crushing sigh. Did I burn the midnight oil a bit too hard? Am I literally hallucinating right now? But just as he pivoted to slam the door shut, a tiny tentative pull snagged the bottom of his shirt. Glancing down, he caught Ye Seola's tiny fingers gripping his robe in a death grasp. Gu Young Cheon completely locked up. Holy crap. This isn't a glitch in the Matrix. The girl looked like she was desperately trying to speak, fat teardrops already welling up in her puppy dog eyes. But right at that cliffhanger second, a giant weathered hand swooped in and totally hijacked the moment. Seola, didn't Grandpa warn you about randomly grabbing the young master's clothes? Gu Young Chan's jaw practically hit the floor. Wait a minute. Isn't that wrinkly dude, the legendary sword venerable, Wee Hyogun, the literal boogeyman that makes the dark factions wet themselves in terror? What the hell is he doing on my porch? But the absolute plot twist happened. The very next second, this untouchable martial god aggressively bowed his head and announced, "By the grace of the head patriarch, this old relic shall, starting today, serve as your personal dedicated butler, young master. Mun reporting for duty. I swear to grind endlessly and give you my absolute all." Gu Yangchan stopped dead in his tracks. Wait, Mun, was his name not? Wee Hyogun. But before he could even process that bombshell, Wee Seola mirrored her grandfather, dipping into a deep respectful bow. "Following my grandpa's footsteps starting today, I will be your dedicated personal maid. My name is Wee Seola. I look forward to serving you, young master." Yangchan felt the room spin violently. Hold up, who is waiting on whom right now? A legendary master serving me. Has the sword venerable completely lost his marbles? However, since this absolute mandate came straight from the head of the family, he absolutely dreaded the idea. Yet he did not dare defy his old man in person. He could only swallow a heavy, defeated groan. From this moment forward, I should probably just start titling my journals as my final will and testament. Swallowing his panic, he forced a strained smile and choked out, "Please treat me well." The grandfather-granddaughter duo fired back in flawless unison. "You give us way too much credit, young master." Gu Yangchan frantically waved his hands and seriously dropped the whole young master title. "Just call me Yangchan." They both gave a deeply respectful nod, loud and clear, young master. "We hear you, young master." Following that horribly cringe-inducing introduction, Gu Yangchan slumped into a chair in the main hall, staring blankly into the distance. His eyes were glued to the legendary sword venerable who was intensely scrubbing the floorboards, yet after observing him for 5 grueling hours straight, he realized this powerhouse had literally done nothing but push a broom the entire time. Could a supreme master genuinely have 0 things to do all day long? But the true comedy show kicked off right after. The spotlight shifted to Wee Seola, who was currently wobbling around with a massive mountain of laundry towering over her tiny frame, desperately hauling it to the wash basin. She zoned out for half a second, caught her foot, and wiped out hard on the dirt, exploding into a chaotic avalanche of dirty robes. Dead, awkward silence blanketed the entire courtyard, and Wee Seola whimpered pitifully from beneath the fabric pile. Seriously, this girl. She does not have a single domestic bone in her body, does she? And to think this clumsy kid was destined to become the future sword venerable. How could somebody be this monumentally uncoordinated? Just as Gu Yangchan spun on his heels to escape the madness, Wee Seola scrambled to her feet and instantly tailed him. And Gu Yangchan shot her a deeply confused glare. "What are you doing? Why are you trailing me?" She stared back with deadpan sincerity. "Wherever the young master walks, I follow." That is literally the job description of a personal maid. He went completely mute for a solid second. "Who on earth planted that garbage in your head? I am genuinely ready to throw hands with them." Wee Seola puffed out her chest proudly. "Grandpa did." Hearing that cursed answer, Gu Yangchan could only force out a couple of extremely hollow, nervous chuckles. Honestly, let's be real, it was not like he was actually terrified of the sword venerable. It was simply that having a devoted little maid shadowing his every move was not the worst thing in the world. Did his dad actually know who these 2 heavyweights were? Or was this insane setup entirely calculated from day one? Whatever the truth was, he was scheduled to meet the old man today regardless. So he was bound to uncover this twisted mystery sooner or later. Yet right before heading out, Gu Yangchan brutally rejected her plea to shadow him. You need to actually figure out how to do basic chores first. But as he glanced back and caught the legendary sword Venerable, aggressively gripping a broomstick, and then shifted his gaze to Wisiola beside him, whose watery red eyes were trembling on the brink of full-blown sobbing. He ultimately caved, sighing deeply before turning back to soothe the crying girl. Just focus on mastering your maid duties for now, and when I return, I promise to snag you a sweet medicinal fruit. The second those words left his mouth, Wisiola beamed, her eyes sparkling like literal diamonds. Meanwhile, the almighty sword Venerable, standing off to the side, just exhaled a brutally exhausted, heavy sigh. A short time later, Gu Yangchan found himself looming outside his dad's study, his face locked in a profoundly stressed grimace. In his past life, the amount of private heart-to-heart talks he shared with his old man could literally be counted on one single hand. So how in the world was he supposed to kick off this terrifying chat? But in the blink of an eye, out of nowhere, his old man materialized right behind him like an absolute ghost, sending a massive jolt through his spine as he yelled, "Holy crap, you practically gave me a heart attack." Smash cut to Gu Yangchan, glued to his seat. Glaring intensely at the wooden surface, he groaned under his breath. Wow, what a spectacular desk. Just absolute peak craftsmanship. Thanks to this stupid thing, I just dropped a curse word right in front of the head honcho. Talk about an epic fail. Honestly, my whole reincarnation feels like a massive scam at this point. Luckily, his dad totally brushed off the awkward vibe. Instead, the guy just casually dropped a question. How are you liking the fresh batch of servants? Gu Yangchan blinked, replying, I appreciate you hooking me up, patriarch, but why dump them all in my lap out of nowhere? The head of the clan didn't even flinch, just taking a long, deliberate sip of his steaming tea, before coolly stating, you'll get it once you grow up a bit. Quit stressing over the small stuff, kid. Just lock in and get ready for the Julong gathering going down tomorrow. Gu Yangchan's brain was still buffering. The Julong gathering. Wait, what the heck was that event again? But a split second later, the horrifying realization hit him like a freight train, draining all the color from his face. Hold up, the Julong gathering. The moment that heavy father-son chat wrapped up, the young master practically bolted out the door, immediately whining to his loyal bodyguard, Mu Yan. Please, just take me out right now. The stoic guard froze in his tracks. Young master, do you seriously despise this festival that badly? The explanation was painfully simple. This year's massive event was being orchestrated straight from the top by the infamous Second Elder, and since it was the most hyped martial arts tournament hosted by the mighty Gu family, every single bloodline VIP was strictly mandated to show up, which was absolute nightmare fuel for Gu Yangchan, because that exact elder happened to be his ultimate childhood sleep demon, a dude who constantly used the excuse of toughening up the clan's golden boy to dish out straight-up ruthless military-grade discipline. To make matters worse, the grumpy geezer had already passed down a chilling message through Mu Yan, claiming that if Gu Yangchan even thought about ghosting the event, he would literally smack his backside into 8 separate pieces. Obviously, now that he was rocking his second playthrough of life, our guy could finally vibe with the crazy, intense, tough love the elder had been throwing his way. But honestly, that didn't stop him from holding a massive grudge against the overwhelmingly strict boomer. Whenever he remembered how the old man had sweat blood and tears only for his past self to turn out as a complete trash fire, it actually left Gu Yangchan genuinely mind-blown by his own former levels of pure incompetence. Regardless, since dodging it was completely off the table, he had to bite the bullet. But right as he was gearing up to bounce, he spotted a whole squad of maids swarming around Ciola. His face instantly went flat as he demanded seriously, what did she break this time? One of the girls frantically waved her hands. No way, we just gave her a little makeover, doesn't she look absolutely precious? In a flash, Gu Yangchan's cheeks flushed a bright burning crimson, while Ciola actually leaned all the way into his personal space, batting her big innocent eyes as she chirped, young master, the girls keep telling me that I look super gorgeous today. Keeping up his icy facade, he scoffed. Yeah, so what? But deep down inside, his pulse was currently throwing a massive, chaotic rave. Tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear, Ciola dropped her voice to a soft whisper. Then what's your verdict, young master? That lethal combo nearly made him completely short-circuit right there, forcing him to aggressively pivot the conversation. Look, we're literally running late. Why are you just standing there? But Ciola wasn't letting it slide, pouting. Come on, do I look pretty? Young master. Refusing to take the bait, he barked. Hurry up, we are out of here. The literal second Ciola hopped into the luxury ride, she let out a massive gasp. Oh my gosh, this is insane, it moves so freaking fast. Leaving the attendant sitting next to her absolutely baffled. Wait, Ciola, have you seriously never been in a carriage before? Whipping her head around with pure hype, she beamed. Nope, I honestly thought horses were just giant walking snacks. I had zero clue they were speed demons too. Completely zoning out, Gu Yangchan mirrored her pose, leaning his head straight out the window to holler at Mu Yan. Hey, where exactly are they hosting the big tournament this year anyway? We're pulling up to the 1,000 Days Merchant Guild, young master. Gu Yuan Xian instantly exhaled a heavy, exhausted breath. I am absolutely cooked. The second elder definitely pulled out all the stops this round. Zero chance I'm dodging this bullet. Whatever, I'm grabbing some shut-eye first. Meanwhile, Sela sat right there in the carriage, loudly yapping about the flavor profile of horse meat. But a split second later, bam, a medicinal fruit got jammed straight into her mouth. Zip it, one more peep out of you and I'm seizing every last one of your spirit stones. Instantly, you could hear a pin drop in that carriage. God knows how long they traveled before someone gently jostled Gu Yuan Xian awake, blinking through the haze. He caught muffled words spilling from Sela's mouth right next to him. He bolted upright, completely lost, and mumbled, "Are we actually here?" Just as you'd expect from a massive spectacle running 5 straight years, the entire venue was swarming with people. So Gu Yuan Xian hopped out of the ride, popping his stiff joints. Right on cue, a super respectful voice echoed nearby. "You guys must be exhausted from that massive trek. Props to you for making the trip. I'm the vice manager running things here at the 1,000 Days Merchant Guild. You've got to be the young master of the Gu clan, am I right?" Gu Yuan Xian fired back with equal polish. "The pleasure is all mine, seriously. It is an absolute honor to shake hands with the vice manager of the 1,000 Days Merchant Guild." The vice manager flashed a warm smile. "Thanks to the second elder and the second miss micromanaging the setup, this whole showcase is gliding along flawlessly. Since that journey totally wiped you out, how about I escort you to your VIP suites so you can crash?" The exact second those words hit Gu Yuan Xian's ears, panic spiked straight through his veins. No freaking way. Why is my second sister crashing this too? He fiercely prayed he'd somehow dodge her, but barely a heartbeat later he rounded a corner and instantly locked eyes with his sister strolling right into a suite, and a microsecond later her signature arrogant sneer of pure disgust slapped right across her face. Cornered again, Gu Yuan Xian forced the most wooden smile imaginable. "Hey there, second sister." She instantly dropped her iconic scoff. "My completely clueless little brother, I am already vibrating with rage today. So you better not stir up any drama at this event, or Dad is going to literally end you." Gu Yuan Qian scrambled to answer. "Loud and clear, you don't need to stress over me at all, sis." But she immediately exploded like a cat backed into a corner. "Who on earth said I was stressing over you?" Yet the moment she spotted the terrified little maid trembling behind him, she dialed back her intensity just a notch. "I swear some things never change. Did you honestly think I couldn't read you like a book? No matter what zone you step into, you are always hunting for chaos. I genuinely thought you might have leveled up even a tiny bit, but shocker, you just let me down again." For a split second, the entire squad stood there completely baffled. What kind of random tantrum is she throwing this time? The vice manager scrambled to diffuse the awkward tension. The dynamic between our young master and the second miss is just endlessly entertaining. "Come on, gang, how about I give you a VIP tour of that sector first?" Taking the entire crew marched together toward the sprawling combat arena. While they were busy picking their jaws off the floor at the sheer scale of the Colosseum, a terrifying white-haired geezer materialized right behind them. You could literally see tendrils of blood-red energy steaming off his frame. Not too shabby. You actually didn't tuck tail and run this time. In a flash, ice-cold sweat drenched Gu Yuan Xian's back, as his survival instincts forced him to whip around. Feeling that monstrous inner aura radiating off the old man, his muscles locked up in pure, unfiltered terror. But dropping a massive plot twist, the elder just reached over and softly patted his head. Well, what random miracle dragged our young master out here today? Don't you usually sprint for the hills the microsecond you spot this old bag of bones?" Gu Yuanxian instantly fired back. "Are you kidding me? Weren't you the one who dragged me out here? You literally swore that if I ghosted this event you'd smash me into 8 different pieces." The old geezer instantly slapped on a ridiculously over-the-top expression of pure shock. "Hold up, what? Who has the guts to trash-talk this poor innocent senior citizen?" Gu Yangchan just gave him a dead-eyed stare. "Drop the act, old man. That is 100% something you would spout." Beside him, Wisiola stood there with her jaw practically hitting the floor. Whoa, a literal bear. Bear steaks are insanely delicious, and honestly horse meat hits different too. The second elder slowly cranked his neck toward her, flashing a wicked nightmare-fuel grin. The sheer terror made Siola instinctively curl up into a tiny trembling ball. Yang Chan smoothly stepped in to block his view. "Dude, do you have any idea how creepy you look right now?" The old man just busted out laughing. "Who is the pipsqueak? Why are you guarding her like she is a national treasure? Do not tell me she is your shiny new wifey. Yang Chan just pointed at her raggedy outfit, his face utterly blank. Are you blind? She is clearly my servant. The elder sighed, looking totally bummed out. All right, whatever you say. Total buzzkill. Go catch some sleep, you have still got the Julong gathering to crash tomorrow. And heads up. If you even think about ditching, you already know the consequences. But barely a few paces away, the elder's instincts suddenly spiked. That kid, what kind of freakish monster is she? Once the Julong gathering officially kicked off, Yang Chan strolled into the massive arena with Siola and his crew in tow. Every major sect from Shanxi, the Gu clan's branch families, and basically every local VIP had showed up to flex their status at the massive event. After all, the Sword Squadron members were insanely overpowered and shrouded in mystery. You simply could not ignore heavyweights like them. Siola, though, she was low-key panicking the entire time, terrified that creepy geezer would pop out of nowhere. His twisted gaze had given her massive bad vibes. Yang Chan, however, decided to flex his absolute genius-level emotional intelligence right then and there. Muyan, if that boomer dares to show his face, just straight up end him for me. The bodyguard was absolutely flabbergasted. Young master, have you ever paused to consider why I am merely your bodyguard? An elder tier master would wipe the floor with me. Yang Chan did not miss a beat. Well, then I guess we will just toss Siola to the wolves. And save our own skins. That dark little joke made Siola practically jump out of her skin. If sacrificing me guarantees your safety, then I will do it. Yang Chan scrambled to backpedal. Siola, chill. It was a joke. But the girl just pointed a trembling finger at a nearby street vendor and whispered timidly, Grandpa always said a stuffed ghost looks way better than a starving one. So if you are seriously going to ditch me, could you at least let me demolish those steamed buns first? Even Muyan thought his boss had crossed a line. She might just be a maid, young master, but you honestly treat her incredibly well. Yang Chan groaned, totally exasperated. Did you not just see her? She is supposed to be the help, yet she was giving me those puppy dog eyes. Expecting me to buy her snacks. She literally has zero clue how this whole hierarchy thing works. But internally, his reality was way more complicated. The awkward girl standing right in front of him kept blending with the badass Siola from his past life, leaving him totally clueless on how to actually treat her. Listening to his boss rant, Muyan silently connected the dots in his head. Guess the street gossip is completely bogus after all. The vicious young master from the rumors definitely was not this much of a softie. Catching his bodyguard's vibe, Yang Chan suddenly remembered this guy was a fresh recruit. He did not know the real him at all. For a split second, he seriously could not decide if that was a blessing or a curse. Suddenly, a loud, heated argument nearby snapped their attention away. A stressed-out attendant was desperately begging a young girl to stop sprinting around the venue. But the stubborn brat clearly did not give a damn. The second Yang Chan caught that annoying, piercing voice, a weird sense of déjà vu hit him. Then the servant frantically blurted out, "What if you bump into young Master Gu?" Yang Chan's heart practically stopped. Hold up. This young Master Gu. They could not possibly be talking about me, right? He desperately tried to forcefully chill his racing pulse. The voice just sounds familiar. That is all. It definitely does not mean it is actually her. But the universe had other plans. At that exact microsecond, the girl whipped her head around. And the instant their eyes locked, both the girl and Yang Chan froze completely solid, like they had been hit by a stun spell. Feeling the sudden suffocating tension in the air, Muyan instantly knew things were going south. He leaned in, dropping his voice to a low whisper. "Young master, who is the girl?" But Yang Chan's gaze was entirely glued to the heavy ring on the girl's finger. Carved right into the metal was a single unmistakable character, Peng. It was the official crest of the Hebei Peng clan. And the loudmouth girl standing right in front of him, that was none other than his ex-fiancée. Ah yes, the legendary Hebei Peng clan from his past life. A heavy-hitting political marriage had been locked in between one of the top 4 elite bloodlines and the Gu dynasty. In any normal timeline, he would be sitting pretty as the undisputed heir to the Gu empire. To the Peng faction, this engagement was supposed to be a flawless, god-tier alliance. But there was a massive catch. The young Gu Yang Chan possessed an absolute masterclass. Naturally, his reckless streak became the exact reason their legendary betrothal crashed and burned. Snapping back to the present, the girl's eyes went wide as she stared at Gu Yang Chan. "What are you doing here?" Gu Yang Chan looked equally baffled. "Better question. Why are you here?" Instantly, she went on the "I showed up because I actually have things to handle. Your family doesn't own Shangxi, okay? Am I suddenly banned from stepping foot in here?" Gu Yang Chan shrugged it off, entirely unbothered. "If you want to spin it like that, then I guess we're done talking. Cool, do your thing. I'm out." The girl's temper flared instantly. "How do you still have zero manners? Technically speaking, I'm literally older than you." Unfazed, Gu Yang Chan just threw back a totally laid-back response. "Alright, big sis. We good now. I'm heading out. Catch you later." Grab those snacks and meet up with me ASAP. But just as he turned to walk away, he paused to drop one final thought. Look, regardless of our history, I genuinely hope you find your happiness and chase whatever it is you actually want to do. With that, Gu Yangchan walked off without a single backward glance, leaving her frozen in place, totally stunned. Honestly, dealing with her older brother earlier had already fried her nerves. Now she had to process bumping into Gu Yangchan. Plus, the guy felt completely unrecognizable compared to his past self. Her mind flashed back to their very first encounter when Gu Yangchan practically smirked and spat out, "Who do you even think you are? Aren't you literally just a concubine's kid?" Blinding rage had consumed her. She had snatched Gu Yangchan right by his collar on the spot, screaming at him to explain his trash talk. But Gu Yangchan had just maintained that deeply punchable smirk. "Did I lie? So what if your mom's just a concubine?" The disrespect was so insane that she directly clocked Gu Yangchan square in the jaw. She had fully planned to bite her tongue and swallow her pride for the sake of her family's empire. But regardless of his toxic reputation, she drew a hard line in the sand. Nobody gets away with dragging her mother. Panicked servants swarmed the room, desperately dragging her back the second she hoisted a heavy chair into the air. She shoved them off like they were nothing, fueled by pure adrenaline. In that chaotic split second, her only goal was beating Gu Yangchan into the pavement. Unsurprisingly, the wedding was called off shortly after. Though later down the line, whispers reached her ears. Rumors claimed the entire blowout had stemmed from a massive On top of that, the Gu family had been silently surviving their own brutal internal war at the time. She had secretly carried that heavy baggage of guilt ever since. Yet seeing the notoriously toxic Gu Yangchan act this mature overnight felt completely surreal. Especially watching him genuinely laugh and vibe with a random servant right next to him. A sharp, stinging wave of bitterness suddenly flooded her chest, and she couldn't shake this agonizing feeling that she had just fumbled something incredibly important. A sudden explosive yell snapped Gu Yangchan right out of his thoughts. He glanced over to spot a frantic guy throwing a massive public tantrum. "I am out of time. If you stall any longer and I get busted, then what? Are you going to take the fall for me?" The staff member's expression instantly dropped to ice. "Busted. If that's your situation, there is zero chance we are letting you pass these doors." The young guy completely lost his mind. "I am crashing the Julong gathering. I am getting in no matter what it takes." Gu Yangchon knew for a fact that the Julong gathering wasn't exactly some highly classified zero-tolerance VIP event. No ID meant zero chance of getting into the tournament. The rules were dead set, randoms simply weren't allowed to compete. Muyun leaned in, whispering to ask if they needed to throw hands, but Gu Yangchun just brushed it off. "Let the Gu clan guards handle their own mess," he murmured, keeping his cool. Right on cue, a heavyweight guard clamped his hand onto the mysterious kid's shoulder, growling at him to back off. But in the blink of an eye, the kid pivoted, executing a flawless, bone-rattling shoulder throw. Bam! He slammed the massive guard flat onto the dirt. Dust swirling, the kid slowly tilted his head up, locking eyes with the registration desk. "If my fists do the talking, does that earn me a spot in the Julong gathering?" he challenged. The official didn't even flinch. "Hard pass. No badge, no entry. Period." Muyen shot his master another sidelong glance, silently asking for the green light to intervene. Instead, Gu Yangchon just spun on his heel. He immediately started walking the other way. There was 0% chance he was letting himself get sucked into some random chaotic beef. Meanwhile, things at the front gate were heating up fast, the shouting match hitting a fever pitch. The kid fiercely stood his ground, snapping back. "I just wiped the floor with your guy. My strength is my VIP pass, so why the hell are you blocking me?" But the official dug his heels in, roaring right back at him. "Show me your damn ID token. Rules are rules. You're an absolute nobody without papers, so you're staying out." Pushed to the edge, the boy finally exploded. "Oh, so now we're disrespecting the young lord of the Peng clan." That name dropped like a bomb. Gu Yangshan violently snapped his neck back toward the commotion right as his former fiancé locked eyes on the scene and gasped, "Brother." Yep, this wildly chaotic kid had just broadcasted to the entire courtyard that he was the future head of the legendary Peng family. Hearing that, Gu Yangchan's brain screamed at him to bolt. His entire game plan had been to ghost the area and dodge any toxic drama related to his ex Peng Ahi. Too late. A massive weathered hand suddenly clamped down hard onto his skull. The second elder strolled up to the tense registration booth wearing a highly amused smirk. "The boy's got hands. Let him in." Instantly dropping his rebellious attitude, the young heir bowed deep. "Absolute honor to see you, Elder Flame Fangfist. I am the successor to the Peng family name. A massive privilege to cross paths." The second elder raked his gaze over the kid, clearly fascinated by this wild card. "Oh, so you actually recognize my old bones. Color me impressed. But tell me, why on earth is the golden boy of the Peng clan begging to fight under a rival family's banner?" Without missing a single beat, the boy deadpanned. Because hanging with my own clan is a total snooze fest. The sheer audacity of the answer sent the second elder roaring with booming, echoing laughter. Fascinating, absolutely incredible. Barely out of diapers and packing that kind of heat. Looks like the Peng family actually bred a savage beast. Man, if only our clan's useless little punk possessed even a fraction of your talent. Tilting her head, Wisiola innocently wondered out loud what a useless little punk tasted like. Gu Yangchan just stared into the void and flatly muttered, "Don't worry your tiny head about it." But jokes aside, this cocky intruder was destined for absolute greatness. Because soon enough, he would be crowned the legendary Saber Emperor. Peng Yujin, however, while Seola and Muyan were busy having an intensely weird debate about cannibalizing punks, Yangchan's ex, Peng Ahi, suddenly launched a vicious right hook. Completely blindsided, Peng Yujin shrieked. "Wait, just let me explain, Ahi." Trembling with suppressed rage, she glared daggers at him. "Alright, start talking." Yujin's brain short-circuited. He stood there sweating bullets entirely, failing to conjure up a single, non-toxic excuse for his chaotic stunt. Defeated, all he could manage was a wildly awkward, terrified smile. Just, "Please don't wreck my face." As he absorbed a brutal, non-stop barrage of punches from his furious little sister, he desperately wailed into the air. "Elder, bail me out. Please, Elder Flame Fang Fist, I'm dying here." It wasn't until she was totally satisfied with the beatdown that he finally dusted off her hands, pivoting to give the second elder a deeply apologetic bow. "I sincerely apologize for my brother acting like an absolute clown. If his tantrum caused any property damage, the Peng family will cover the bill in full. We're heading out before we stir up any more chaos," Peng He announced. But of course Peng Yujin somehow managed to drop the dumbest line possible. "Nah, I'm staying right here." Predictably, the second that left his mouth, Peng, he shot him a death glare. "Are you begging for another beatdown?" Keeping an absolute poker face, Peng Yujin shot back. "Do I look like I'm playing around? The Peng clan is a total snooze fest. Before I'm chained down as the family head, I'm gonna live it up to the max. Look, stepping up as the leader isn't exactly my dream, but minus you and me, the rest of those guys are just savages hiding behind our family's prestige. So when it comes down to it, I'm the one who's gonna be running the show anyway." Right on cue, the second elder swaggered into the spotlight. "Look, if you're dead set on crashing the Julong gathering, things might get incredibly messy between the Peng and the Gu clans. So let's make a deal. We trade exactly 10 strikes. If we can settle this in under 10 moves, are you game?" Peng Yujin nodded with deadly serious eyes. "That works for me." Smirking, the second elder challenged. "Do I seem like I'm capping land even a single scratch on me within 10 moves and you've got my blessing?" The elder barely finished speaking before Peng Yujin blitzed forward like a literal lightning bolt, teleporting right behind the old man's back, snatching a blade from a nearby guard seamlessly and dropping a brutal slash aimed straight at his spine. But the second elder just casually tossed out a backhand, burying his fist directly into the left side of Peng Yujin's jaw, launching the guy halfway across the courtyard and putting him to sleep instantly. Dusting his hands off with a massive grin, the second elder cheered. "Haha, guess that's my win, though the kid is definitely gonna need a few months to bounce back from that." Bowing deeply, Peng He turned to the old man with total respect. "Thank you, Elder, for shutting down my brother's absolute nonsense. If you hadn't, he would have totally sparked another massive dumpster fire." The second elder threw his head back and boomed with laughter. "I wasn't even thinking that deep, honestly, I just thought it'd be hilarious." "That's literally it." Gu Yangchan stood there absolutely speechless. How in the world did a guy like this ever make elder status? Shaola, on the other hand, was starry-eyed. In her mind, Bear Grandpa was the definition of badass. Catching Shaola hyping up his cool factor, the old man's chest instantly puffed up with pure ego, and he reached deep into his robes to whip out a surprise, announcing little Yangchan. "I actually prepped a little something for you too." The camera cut straight to the combat ring where the ultimate showdown everyone had been hyping up was finally kicking off, and we're talking about an absolute heavyweight clash between the twin prodigies of the Gu family. The Crimson Blade herself, Gu Yunsuk, stepping up against the third young master, Gu Yangchan. Yup. The epic present the second elder cooked up was a straight-up deathmatch between Yangchan and his older sister. One look at the old man's face and Yangchan knew this dude was just doing it for the giggles. Because of that, his game plan was to just tap out the second things got real. But the elder read his mind flawlessly, casually jabbing a finger toward the KO'd Peng Yujin, still sprawled out in the dirt. "If you even think about throwing the match, you already know your fate." Yangchan was utterly flabbergasted. "Are you seriously that desperate to watch me get absolutely demolished? And take the most humiliating L in history?" But dropping the jokes for a split second, the elder locked eyes with him. "Are you really planning to throw away your shot at victory? Or are you just terrified of throwing down with your sister?" As the tension peaked right before the bell, his sister caught that Yang Chan was standing there empty-handed. Frowning hard, she barked out a warning, but Yang Chan just shrugged it off. I'm good. Throwing hands is way more my style. Her response was an icy, mocking chuckle. Real talk, it doesn't matter what weapon you bring. A setup like this is just too flawless. Getting a totally free pass to absolutely wreck my baby brother in front of a massive crowd. You don't get chances like that every day. In a heartbeat, she burst forward, erasing the gap between them, raising her training blade high and bringing it crashing down toward his skull. But Yang Chan just effortlessly arched his back, letting the deadly swing whistle mere inches past him. What actually sent a chill down his spine was the pure, unfiltered bloodlust behind her swing. She was totally out for blood. Forced into survival mode, he had to rely entirely on dodging, letting the muscle memory and battle instincts from his past life completely take the wheel. Throwing the match naturally. Yeah, right. Every single strike from his sister screamed pure, unadulterated murder. Tanking even a single blow from her absolutely out of the question. The split second his focus wavered, she practically teleported right back into his face. One hand shot out, clutching his collar in a death grip, while the other brought her wooden blade crashing down with zero hesitation. Gu Yongchan operated purely on survival instinct. Like a snake shedding its skin, he violently twisted out of his outer robe. He leaped backward flawlessly, and the exact millisecond he cleared the danger zone, a blinding arc of kinetic force shredded that discarded fabric into ribbons. Seeing that utter devastation, freezing sweat absolutely drenched Gu Yongchan's face. Sis, aren't your murderous vibes a bit too intense right now? Can we maybe dial it back a notch? That is literally a wooden training sword and it just sliced straight through heavy fabric. Exactly how much power are you packing? Grinding her teeth together, his sister spat back with absolute venom. I am a girl. Knowing I would never inherit the family throne, I still grinded until my hands literally bled. So why does a totally worthless piece of garbage like you get handed the crown just because you were born a guy? Put yourself in my shoes, could you honestly stomach this? A talentless, lazy bum like you would genuinely be better off dropping dead? Yet despite soaking up all that toxic rage, Gu Yongchan did not even flinch. Honestly, what kind of full-grown adult actually gets into a screaming match with a teenager? Boom. The very next heartbeat, another savage blow rained down, paired with a deeply unforgivable insult. You should just disappear. The instant those words dropped, Gu Yongchan's gaze snapped into absolute freezing deadliness. His hand fired out, locking onto his sister's wrist like a steel vice. Tilting his head up, he muttered in a voice so bone-chilling it could freeze a soul. Did you seriously just say that? Fact check, Gu Yun-suk was an absolute prodigy. At only 15 years old, she snatched the legendary title of Sword Phoenix. She eventually leveled up into a top-tier captain commanding the Gu clan's 5 sword units. But no matter how insanely brilliant she became, that top leadership spot remained permanently locked. Why? Because the heir throne had Gu Yongchan's name plastered all over it since day one, and honestly, that is exactly why she despised his guts from the start. Meanwhile, his mom had been this incredibly sweet, gentle soul, until one random day she completely vanished into thin air. To make things even sketchier, their dad slapped a strict ban on anyone attempting to track her down. This sparked massive screaming blowouts between Gu Yongchan and his dad, eventually poisoning his view of the entire bloodline. He completely spiraled into a chaotic, unmanageable rebel. Yet despite burning his reputation to the ground, his VIP pass as the next patriarch stayed totally untouchable. She was a literal powerhouse, yet permanently barred from ruling. Who would not be absolutely livid? In her mind, this entire system was just massively rigged. But as Gu Yun-suk glanced down at her wrist, totally immobilized in his iron grip, her heart violently leaped into her. For the very first time in her life, the brother standing before her radiated. Panic fired her reflexes, forcing her to aggressively jerk backward and break his hold. But Gu Yongchan simply murmured in a deep, gravelly tone, I know you absolutely despise me, Nuna. Because honestly, my old lifestyle was a complete and utter dumpster fire. Your words cut deep just now, but I totally get why you are furious. So do me a favor and try to understand my side just a bit. And for what I am about to pull off, I really hope you can forgive me. The very next heartbeat, blistering flames swirled directly into his fist. He launched a devastating right hook straight into Gu Yun-suk's face. A massive, deafening shockwave shattered her senses. Before her vision plunged into absolute pitch black nothing. The exact millisecond the spar wrapped up reality slapped Gu Yongchan right in the face. He totally botched the whole situation. Slumping outside the doors, he practically drowned in waves of instant regret. Securing the win was literally never part of the game plan. But throwing that aside, the dude was rocking a measly 2-star strength level, yet he somehow flatlined his highly skilled second sister with one single punch. Yeah, good luck explaining that absolute miracle to anyone. Right on cue, his personal bodyguard Mu Yan rushed over with Wixiola trailing close behind. Once they confirmed he was still in one piece, Mu Yan broke the news that the entire stadium had completely lost its mind. Lucky for them, the second elder intervened at lightning speed and shut the madness down. Gu Yangchan didn't even bat an eye. Honestly, when a notorious deadbeat, globally recognized as absolute garbage, suddenly crushes the season's top rookie in front of a massive crowd, public outrage is basically guaranteed. Right in the middle of this, Wiciola's eyes locked onto the nasty mangled gashes tearing across his knuckles. That instantly snapped Gu Yangchan back to reality as well. He was still miles away from actually mastering his internal mana. Panicking, she whipped out some medical tape and scrambled over, desperately trying to patch up his bleeding skin. But no matter how frantically she twisted the fabric, she just turned it into a tangled, chaotic disaster. Her voice cracked into a soft, pathetic whisper admitting she totally sucked at first aid, begging the young master to stop getting himself injured. Moving forward, the exact millisecond the words left her mouth, Peng Yujin popped out of nowhere, flashing a cocky smirk. Hilariously enough, I'm not exactly a fan of seeing young Master Gu banged up either. Once they wrapped up the standard polite small talk, Peng Ahi, who had literally been cowering behind the staff this entire time, looked incredibly stiff and practically whispered a plea for her big bro to drag them out of there. But Peng Yujin wasn't blind. You aren't seriously cringing over canceling your wedding with young Master Gu, right? Because if you are, why not seize this moment to fix things? Hearing that nonsense just made Gu Yangchan's skull throb, so he aggressively pivoted the conversation. Young Master Peng, was there an actual reason you tracked me down? Peng Yujin dropped the act and laid all his cards on the table. He wanted to officially team up with Gu Yangchan. Because honestly, he never in a million years imagined the Gu family was concealing an absolute beast like him. Right alongside the legendary sword Phoenix. That logic totally threw Gu Yangchan off guard. Wait, young Master Peng, are you and my sister actually tight? Peng Yujin fired back without skipping a beat. Obviously we're close though, I haven't got a clue how your sister actually views me. Right as the group was finally splitting up, Peng Ahi abruptly spun around, freezing in her tracks. Catching that hesitation, Gu Yangchan casually asked if there was anything else she needed to get off her chest. She choked on her words, clumsily stumbling her way toward the exact afternoon they scrapped the marriage. Look, that day, when I slammed a chair into you, I seriously crossed the line, so I just wanted to. But before she could spit it out, Gu Yangchan dropped a quiet apology first. My bad. I was completely out of line back then. I acted like a total psycho, so taking a hit was completely justified. You seriously need to stop carrying that guilt. Hearing that raw honesty, a massive wave of relief washed over Peng Ahi's face, melting into a bright smile. Gu Yangchun, I'm totally looking forward to hanging out again. Right before vanishing, she aggressively reminded him to guard whatever her brother handed over with his life, which honestly just sent Gu Yangchan into an even deeper spiral of confusion. What the hell was this random artifact even for the camera pans and during the long trek back to the Gu estate? No matter how intensely Gu Yangchan racked his brain, he drew an absolute blank on ever clashing with his sister in his past timeline. Honestly, the total number of times he'd actually taken anyone down in a fight back then could be counted on a single hand. And this entire butterfly effect visibly started shattering his original destiny the exact second Wixiola crashed into his orbit. At the same time, he was totally blind to how that one microscopic drop of empathy he gave her would radically mutate the future. Letting those heavy thoughts sink in, Gu Yangchan breathed out a slow, exhausted sigh. Whatever happens, as long as he avoids triggering the absolute bloodbath of his first life, he'd take it as a massive win. But out of absolutely nowhere, his instincts screamed that something was horribly off. He barked an instant command at Mu Yan to rip out the demon immortal talisman. Yet when the guard stared down at the paper, noticing it was completely dead and unreactive, he immediately told his boss to chill out. If a demon mirror gate actually spawned, that tag would absolutely flare up like a warning beacon. But the second those words dropped, the demon immortal talisman sparked into a frantic, blinding pulse. Mu Yan's face instantly darkened and he yelled for the entire convoy to slam the brakes. His voice sliced through the tension like a blade. A demon mirror gate just tore open. Weapons out, brace for impact right now. Protect the young master at all costs. Yet in the blink of an eye, Gu Yangchan was already chilling right beside him. He casually cracked his knuckles, stretching out like he was just gearing up for a light morning jog. Mu Yan frantically tried to warn him that they were standing in the middle of a literal death zone, but Gu Yangchan totally tuned out the lecture. His eyes were completely locked on the barren wasteland up ahead. Right there, reality literally ripped apart, carving a jagged fissure through thin air. Sickly green energy bled from the rift, and as the void stretched wider and wider, a pack of savage, bloodthirsty wolf demons erupted from the portal, catching sight of the beasts. Gu Yangchun instantly dropped into a flawless combat stance. A green-tier demon mirror gate wasn't exactly a death sentence, it was definitely a headache, but completely manageable. The second that thought crossed his mind, he absolutely obliterated the first monster, with one explosive punch. Without missing a beat, he brutally ripped the magic stone straight from its chest. After all, that was the ultimate Achilles' heel for every single demonic beast. For these monsters, that core was literally their heart. The exact second it was yanked out, the freakish thing dropped dead on the dirt. However, Gu Yangchan severely misjudged his own gas tank. A bit. Ripping out the core was child's play. The actual nightmare was that keeping the Nine Flames firewheel art burning constantly was draining his physical body dry. But the pack refused to let him breathe. Snarling, they launched themselves at his throat, in endless waves. Just as things got sketchy, Mu Yan dashed in and planted himself right at the front line. With one singular devastating slash, he butchered the entire charging pack. Witnessing that pure overkill only spiked Gu Yangchan's curiosity about this supposed bodyguard. Who the heck was this guy really? How was he packing such insane, overpowered stats? Mu Yan quickly spun around, panicked, asking if he caught any hits. But Gu Yangchan just brushed it off. Instead, he gave the guy a nod for clutching up the save. Hearing those words, Mu Yan finally exhaled a massive sigh of relief. But right as the dust settled, a wicked purple aura violently flared up around Gu Yangchan's right arm. Before his brain could even process the glitch, an agonizing, bone-shattering surge of pain dropped him straight to his knees. The sudden collapse completely blindsided everyone. Why the hell was this cursed sensation flaring up right now of all times? But it clicked instantly. This was the Heavenly Demon's cultivation technique. Going rogue. The Demon Spring absorption art was boiling in his veins, and in a flash, his consciousness was brutally yanked back to his past life. Back to the exact second. A one-armed warrior glared daggers at him, screaming, "Why did you butcher my entire clan? What the hell did we ever do to you?" Yet the only response the man got was Gu Yangchan's dead, ruthless stare. Plum Blossom, absolute sword. Are those seriously your dying words? The instant those words dropped, a severed head tumbled right to the man's boots. He recognized it in a heartbeat. It was his own sect leader. Simultaneously, a massive, suffocating shadow crept over him, as a figure perched on top of a colossal dragon gazed down with pure icy indifference. Plum Blossom's HM, not half bad. You didn't exactly blow me away, but you definitely gave me a decent little show. And it was strictly because he crushed that mission that the Heavenly Demon blessed him with a forbidden technique, the Demon Spring absorption art. By the time Gu Yangchan snapped out of the flashback, he realized that the Nine Flames firewheel art was literally feeding on the dark, toxic energy, corrupting his system. But back in his past life, nothing even close to this ever triggered. As the gut-wrenching agony finally cooled off, his vision cleared, revealing the completely panicked faces of Wisiola and Mu Yan. Gritting his teeth, he immediately pushed himself back up on his feet. He brushed off his gnarly wounds, claiming he probably just caught a stray hit while brawling with his second sister. Because honestly, sucking up demonic energy is the kind of massive secret you take straight to the grave. But a split second later, Yisiola lunged at him, squishing his cheeks with teary eyes as she started wailing. "You're practically half dead. Why on earth didn't you tell Siola right away?" Gu Yangchan was seriously about to snap from her non-stop badgering. Sensing the escalating chaos, a nearby maid quickly peeled the crying girl off him. Meanwhile, Mu Yun stared in absolute panic. "Young master, shouldn't we crash at a clinic first?" But our guy shut that idea down instantly. He swore that a solid power nap was all he needed to bounce back. Yet the moment he tried to push himself up, it hit him. That toxic demonic energy brewing in his veins, completely wiped out. Even the magic stone he had scavenged earlier looked completely sucked dry. The glowing crystal was now nothing but a dull, lifeless rock. Did his Nine Flames firewheel art seriously just devour the whole thing? Whatever the actual reality was, one hardcore fact remained. He needed to level up his power, and fast. Fast forward to the next morning. Gu Yangchun dragged Mu Yun and Yi Seola along as he strolled through the bustling street market. But the exact second Yi Seola locked onto a fruit stand packed with sweet herbal treats, her eyes practically shot literal sparkles, and she started aggressively dropping the most obvious hints ever. But Yangchan played totally blind, just straight up leaving her on red. Fed up, she sprinted over, clamped onto his leg like a koala, and started whining. "If you aren't going to buy me those snacks, why did you even drag Siola outside?" He didn't hesitate to roast her transparent. He scoffed. "Bro, weren't you the one eavesdropping on our market trip? You literally used your grandpa as an excuse to crash our hangout." Watching this whole clown show unfold, Muyun looked super confused. "Young master, what is the actual point of us being out here today? Especially after that last brutal brawl, your body is barely holding together. If this isn't an absolute emergency, we really should head back. That was when Young Chan finally dropped the act. I have a highly specific mission today, and when the time comes, I am definitely putting you to work. The moment they ducked into a dead silent shady back alley, he slammed on the brakes. He ordered Sayola to bounce and head back to the Gu estate immediately, throwing her a casual promise that he would haul back 10 herbal fruits and sweet buns for her tonight. Once the noisy kid was finally out of his hair, Yang Chan signaled Muyun to follow him toward their actual target, a towering run-down building that looked incredibly sketchy and practically rotting away. He kicked the heavy doors open instantly, drawing the dead glares of several masks. One of them barked, "Where the hell did this little punk crawl out from? You lost, kiddo?" But the absolute second they spotted the steel strapped to Muyun's waist, the entire crew went on high alert. Cutting through the tension, a shady older dude clutching a rusty oil lamp slithered out from the pack. Flashing a psycho grin, he hissed, "Kid, this ain't a playground for rich boys. Start talking. What do you actually want?" Yang Chan skipped the small talk and delivered his demands straight up. "Chill. I am just here to make a deal." The lamp guy busted out laughing like a total maniac. "Little rat, did you leave your brain at home? How about I carve out that cocky tongue of yours to give you a reality check?" Hearing the threat, Muyun immediately reached for his hilt. But Yang Chan casually raised a hand blocking him. He smirked stone cold. "I am guessing you lowlifes know exactly who I am. So unless you want the entire Gu family to bulldoze this dump into dust, do not do anything stupid. Now be a good dog and fetch your boss for me." Staring down this arrogant teenager who just blatantly insulted them in their own base, the lamp guy shot a killer glare to his crew, and the wall of muscle slowly started boxing the two boys in. And the exact millisecond the silent order dropped, the mob lunged forward, swinging their blades for a total bloodbath. Meanwhile, Gu Yangchan didn't even flinch, standing dead in his tracks like an ice-cold statue. A split second later, Muyun's blade flashed from its sheath. He wiped the floor with the entire ambush crew in one clean sweep, leaving the lantern guy absolutely shook. Sure, he figured the Gu family heir would pack some seriously heavy muscle, but escorting this kid straight to the branch boss was way above his pay grade. While he was sweating bullets trying to figure out his next move, a shadow slipped out from the back room, whispering fresh orders directly from the top dog. Yang Shan totally expected them to pull some sketchy, underhanded stunt. Instead, Lantern Guy spun around with a complete attitude flip, announcing, "The big boss will see you now." Catching the vibe, Yang Chan flicked two fingers, signaling Mu Yan to sheathe his steel, but right before stepping inside, Mu Yan leaned in low-key, asking what their actual game plan was this time. Yang Chan finally dropped the act and laid all his cards on the table. Plan A was hitting up the beggar sect for intel, but a massive curveball totally wrecked that route. Even though those vagabonds were the undisputed GOATs of information gathering, they still played for the righteous team. Feeding them this kind of highly sensitive dirt had a massive chance of blowing up right in his face. That left him with zero options but to pivot hard, dragging them straight to the absolute masters of the underworld grapevine, the shady network known as the Howgate. Fast forward, and Yang Chan was finally standing toe-to-toe with the Xiangxi sector boss himself, Du Unshu. The guy instantly played the diplomat card, apologizing for his goons acting so feral. But Unshu wasn't buying it, his mind spinning with one massive question. Why would a top-tier squeaky clean family like the Gu clan skip the beggar sect and slum it with a dirty syndicate like his? Yang Chan skip the sugarcoating? Because those righteous scouts can't stomach a job like this. So I will cut to the chase. Are you in or out? Unshu flashed a slick, calculating grin, assuming the young master has the cash to back it up. The Howgate never turns down a fat paycheck. Without missing a beat, Yang Chan slammed a sketch onto the table, demanding the exact location of a 10-year-old kid. Unshu's eyes scanned the parchment, and in an instant his smug vibe completely vanished. "Young Master Gu, my bad, but this gig is a massive headache. We might have to pass. Even with your VIP status, tracking a ghost kid off the grid is borderline impossible even for my top hounds." Unfazed, Yang Chan stared him dead in the eyes and dropped an absolute nuke. "The exact coordinates of your missing sect master. That is my payment." The second those words hit the air, the entire room lost their minds, steel ringing out as Unshu's elite guards ripped out their blades. A heartbeat later, they lunged forward, pure killer intent radiating from their eyes. But right before they connected, Mu Yun materialized, effortlessly parrying the entire squad's barrage with a single lightning-fast strike. Unshu's face morphed into pure storm clouds, locking a lethal glare onto Yang Chan as he hissed out a warning. "Spit it out. How the hell do you know about the boss?" Yang Chan didn't even blink, his voice cold as ice. "I didn't step into this dump to play trivia with you. If I am walking in here to cut a deal, digging up your darkest skeletons is just doing my homework, right? Unshu aggressively pressed him, desperately trying to call his bluff and see if this kid actually had the receipts. But Yangchan just gave a careless shrug, flashing a toxic little smirk. Look, if the Howgate is too scared to play, I will just take my business to the beggars. And while I am chilling with them, maybe I will accidentally leak everything I know about your MIA leader. Whoops. Total checkmate. Completely cornered, Unshu ground his teeth hard enough to crack enamel, brutally forced to accept the gig and swearing on his life to dig up results, giving himself a strict 3-month deadline. In return, Yangchan locked in his end of the bargain, swearing that he would spill every last detail about their missing leader. Then, right before making his grand exit, just to guarantee these shadow brokers wouldn't drag their feet on the mission, Yangchan casually dropped a massive breadcrumb: check the Rujiang mountain range. The exact millisecond those words left his mouth, Unshu's composure completely shattered, his face draining of color, and standing right next to him, the lantern-wielding goon couldn't hold back his burning question. Dropping his voice to a gritty whisper, he asked, "Branch Chief, are we seriously putting our faith in a literal?" Duanshu let a heavy, suffocating silence drag out before finally murmuring a dark reply. "If he actually holds top-tier intel about our sect master vanishing from the face of the earth, then betting on him is straight up our only play. But the real mystery is, why on earth is he hunting down a random 10-year-old boy? Think about it, young Master Gu might just be the decoy standing in the spotlight. The true mastermind pulling the puppet strings in the dark. It has to be the patriarch of the Gu clan." Fueled by that chilling theory, Duanshu reached up and violently peeled the human skin mask right off his skull, leaving the lantern-bearer completely paralyzed for a second. "Branch Chief, is it really safe to ditch the mask right now?" Duanshu simply brushed off the warning with a dismissive wave. "Relax, I just need to breathe. Besides, the Howgate has always been a literal snake pit anyway. Loyalty to the sect master, yeah, that doesn't exist here." That was exactly why he kept that heavy disguise on, to stay entirely off the radar of backstabbers waiting for the perfect strike. Stepping out of the Howgate's territory, Gu Yunshan finally exhaled. Thank God his past life memories were still dead on. According to his mental timeline, the Howgate's top boss was already a hostage, dragged kicking and screaming into the Black Knight Palace exactly 5 years ago, which was the exact spark that triggered the brutal bloodbath between the Howgate and the Black Knight Palace. Ultimately, the Martial Alliance completely third-partied the conflict, dropping a massive ambush out of nowhere. That ruthless strike shattered the Black Knight Palace's defenses, but the Howgate leader still got caught in the crossfire and died. And from that exact moment, the Howgate's power completely fell off a cliff. So even though Yunshan knew the sect master was currently chained up somewhere, he still had zero clue where the Black Knight Palace was actually hiding. Regardless, Yunshan had to hunt down a specific target, the insane prodigy who somehow secured the Heavenly Demon's absolute trust and skyrocketed straight up the demonic sect's food chain. The ultimate mastermind pulling the strings of the demonic sect, Cheonbong Jaegal Hyuk, and Yunshan was going to slaughter him with his bare hands. Because that guy wasn't just toxic and manipulative, he was the primary engine behind the demonic sect's terrifying global takeover. Even an absolute powerhouse like the divine sword Yi Seola got totally wrecked by his mind games multiple times. Right on cue, Muyun started aggressively venting. "The Howgate's intel network is absolute garbage. I have no idea who we're even tracking down, young master. But seriously, 3 entire months. By the time they dig up any crumbs, we'll be sweating in the middle of summer." That specific timeline instantly flipped a switch inside Yunshan's brain. Wait, wasn't that the exact season when the Jumshan Yan family's hidden vault, run by the First Merchant Group, was blown wide open? That place was absolutely stacked to the ceiling with pure gold and silver. But the actual game changers hidden inside were those mythical, insanely overpowered spirit pills. Because historically, every single fighter who consumed those pills for a massive stat boost ended up mutating into a literal demon, which only handed the Heavenly Demon an even more cracked army to command. Remembering that nightmare, Yunshan let out a heavy sigh. Even if he wanted to hijack the vault, it was locked away in Sichuan, way too far from Shanxi. Since teleporting wasn't an option, he had to bench that side quest for now. Meanwhile, deep inside the Gu clan's private courtyard, the second elder let out a totally forced cough. "Hey old-timer, didn't you miss a spot with those leaves?" The second elder immediately cracked up at his own joke. "So are you actually planning to toss Yunshan into the meat grinder at the Julong gathering?" Hearing that disrespect, the legendary sword venerable Y Hyojin just gave a cold, hollow chuckle. A split second later, the wooden broom in his grip violently exploded into sawdust. The second elder instantly started sweating bullets. "Whoa, senior, I was just helping you stay in character as a lowly servant. Since the coast is clear, how about I take over the sweeping?" Ignoring the panic, Wee Hyo-gyeon coldly demanded the real reason the second elder crashed his sweeping session. Dropping the comedy act, the second elder's face went dead serious. Look, I know you felt it too 3 months ago. That kid used to duck out of something as painfully basic as horse stance drills. But out of nowhere, he just completely floored Gu Yeonsuk in a straight-up brawl, bulldozing right through her 3-star. A glow-up that insane, yeah, I can't just pretend I didn't see that. Honestly, Wee Hyo-jin was just as mind-blown. In all his decades of fighting, he'd never seen a kid level up that fast. Something definitely went down with that kid, and if the Grand Elder catches wind of this, he is absolutely going to flip. Honestly, that old man is probably already pulling strings in the shadows elsewhere. Meanwhile, Wee Seola ends up crossing paths with some random kid. And the absolute first thing this dude does, he hits her with the wildest pitch, asking her to ditch her crew and join him, straight up swearing he can give her a way better life. But right on cue, Gu Yangchan materializes out of nowhere, aggressively planting himself right in front of Wee Seola. One look at this kid's painfully fake innocent act and perfectly rehearsed smile, and Yangchan instantly clocks him as a walking red flag. My bad, but she rolls with me. Who the hell are you? The boy immediately hits them with a fake apology for coming on so strong, before smoothly introducing himself as Gu Jiaop. He claims he traveled all this way just to throw down with young Master Gu, since they are both part of the main bloodline. But Yang Chan does not even hesitate for a split second before hitting him with a hard pass. Jiaop instantly scoffs, flashing a super toxic smirk. So the rumors are true, you really are a coward. It is literally just a friendly spar and you are already shaking. You would seriously rather tuck tail and run. Surprisingly, Yang Chan just flashes a lazy smile and nods. Wow, your vibe check is spot on. I am a total coward. I am terrified. But honestly, the reality was way less dramatic. Yang Chan just desperately wanted to avoid the spotlight. Absolutely destroying his older sister at the Julong gathering had already brought him way too much unwanted drama. But the exact second he tries to dip, the second elder materializes out of thin air, completely blocking his only exit. Come on, the kid traveled all the way out here just for this. You might as well humor him. Seeing the old man drop, and Ji-up instantly drops into a crazy, respectful bow. Then the second elder casually drops a massive bombshell, revealing that this annoying kid is actually the Grand Elder's biological grandson. The microsecond those words hit his ears, everything instantly clicks into place for Yang Chan. At first, he assumed this punk was just hyper-fixated on testing his power, but now, it is painfully obvious that the Grand Elder is orchestrating this entire thing, playing puppet master from the shadows. Honestly, the entire clan knows that old geezer is relentlessly power-hungry, which is the exact reason he desperately needed the famously trash-tier Gu Yangchan to stay permanently locked in as the untouchable heir to the head of the family. But when Yangchan completely flipped the script and wrecked his sister at the tournament, it completely shattered the Grand Elder's perfectly crafted timeline. So now he deployed his own flesh and blood just to gauge Yangchan's actual threat level. Knowing all that toxic clan politics, Yang Chan shuts down the fight a second time with zero hesitation. The second elder is clearly gearing up to gaslight him into fighting, but Yang Chan has completely mentally checked out. He snatches Wee Seola by the hand and spins around to bail. There is no way he is letting himself get dragged into this messy political warfare, especially not for some cursed match that is literally guaranteed to blow up in his face. But out of nowhere, an arm violently shoots out, clamping down hard on Wee Seola's wrist. And the absolute menace behind it is Gu Jiaop. I genuinely do not think young Master Gu deserves you. Why do you not ditch this pathetic loser and ride with me instead? I promise, I will treat you like absolute royalty. The literal millisecond those words drop, something inside Yang Chan just completely snaps. Get your filthy hands off her, kid, fine. You want to throw down, let's go. Yet the absolute microsecond that threat leaves his mouth, instant regret hits him like a freight train. Meanwhile, the second elder practically beams, aggressively ruffling Yang Chan's hair like a proud dad. Hell yeah, that is what I am talking about. This is about to be one hell of an entertaining showdown. Clashing with absolute monsters from totally different skill brackets is exactly what you need to finally wake up your true potential. Hearing that old school logic, Yang Chan slowly locks eyes with the second elder, his gaze turning incredibly cold. Since you essentially rigged this whole situation exactly how you wanted, win or lose, you have to grant me one massive favor. Deal. The old man does not even pretend to mull it over. He completely shuts it down on the spot, his voice dropping into a dead serious warning. If you actually lose this fight, it is going to critically nuke your reputation as the next head of the family. You realize that, right? But Young Chan physically could not care less. Honestly, taking over as family patriarch was literally never on his bucket list anyway. The second elder's face instantly drains of color, absolute panic setting in. What kind of crazy nonsense are you spewing right now? If the true blood heir refuses to step up and claim the patriarch's throne, Who else in this clan even stands a chance? Catching on to the old-timer's absolute desperation, Gu Yangchan decided to play dirty. Give me what I want right now, he threatened. Or I am literally hitting the dirt and tapping out of this tournament. Pinned against the wall, the second elder ground his teeth and caved to the blackmail. But he threw down his own twisted catch. Gu Yangchan had to absolutely. Out of nowhere, Gu Juyup chimed in, dripping with fake sympathy. Honestly, tearing into young Master Gu today almost feels like straight-up bullying at this point. Gu Yangchan just scowled, completely thrown off by the sudden trash talk. Juyup kept running his mouth. I mean, during our clash last year, I accidentally went a little too hard and literally put you in a hospital bed for 30 solid days. Not going to lie, back then you were seriously pathetic. Sure, you managed to scrape out a win against the second miss, but let us be real, that was pure dumb luck. Gramps might be hyping you up, but there is zero chance I am letting a total scrub sit on the clan leader's throne. Pivoting sharply, Juyup offered a slick, calculated bow to the second elder. Sir, if I end up wiping the floor with him today, I want that girl handed over to me as my trophy. Hiding behind some twisted logic of fairness, the geezer actually greenlit that disgusting deal right on the spot. And that completely shattered the last ounce of Gu Yangchan's patience. His blood was practically boiling. Does this old fossil seriously just rubber stamp absolutely every garbage request? He thought to himself. The second the fight officially kicked off, both fighters ignited their internal auras simultaneously, sending out shockwaves to test the waters. But within seconds, Juyup's smug grin totally vanished. On paper, his explosive circulation speed and raw kinetic power should have absolutely outclassed the young master. So why the hell was the energy radiating off Gu Yangchan so insanely suffocating? Honestly, just to keep from being crushed by the sheer gravity of it, Juyup had to push his core to its absolute limit. But right at peak tension, Gu Yangchan intentionally dialed back a massive chunk of his aura. Catching that slip, Juyup's brain instantly jumped to the wrong conclusion. So this punk is just faking it. He burned through his reserves just to flex, and now his tank is running on empty. Riding that delusion, his massive ego, and he flashed a cocky, relaxed smirk. Be my guest, young master. I will let the underdog take the first swing. Hearing that garbage, Gu Yangchan did not waste a single breath on a reply. He just snapped into motion, blinking straight into Juyup's blind spot. It was lightning fast, but the older fighter still barely managed to twist out of the strike zone. Juyup immediately fired back with a toxic sneer. A sneak attack, cute, but your reflexes belong in a nursing home. What this idiot completely failed to realize was the terrifying hyper-compressed ball of lethal energy silently surging inside Gu Yangchan's right fist. A split second later, that iron fist brutally connected, cratering straight into Juyup's arrogant face. The savage impact sent him flying, coughing up a violent spray of blood. But instead of going for the instant knockout, Gu Yangchan held his ground. He purposely gave this clown breathing room to recover. He needed a clean, undeniable victory, with absolutely zero excuses. Staggering back to his feet, Juyup's gaze iced over completely, and the raging aura inside his body started channeling violently straight into his blade. Okay, you little freak, I will admit I didn't take you seriously, he hissed. But playtime is officially over. It is my turn to end this. Locking onto that deadly shift, Gu Yangchan's brain went into overdrive, mapping out his ultimate countermeasure. He knew from the absolute beginning that this bloodbath wasn't going to wrap up with a neat little bow. But his internal clock was already screaming at zero. In any ordinary fight, he would have just unleashed a massive wave of chi and met his opponent head-on. But facing a monster who heavily outclassed him, his only play was flooding his own muscles with raw energy, redlining his stats for one desperate explosive burst of power. The massive catch. His physical vessel could only handle that insane pressure for maybe another 7 minutes tops. Push it a single second past that limit and he risked completely blowing out his own core right then and there. So do or die, he absolutely had to end this entire clash before the timer ran out. Luckily, Gu Yangchan had completely memorized the exact mechanics of Gu Jiyup's signature technique, the 9-Dragon Blood Sword. That specific style was all about the quick draw, one blinding flash to start, and usually to finish the kill. As long as he stayed totally locked in on that initial unsheathing motion, snagging a victory was actually possible. Suddenly, Gu Jiyup ripped his blade from its scabbard, bringing it crashing down in a brutal sweeping arc. Yet Gu Yangchan simply shifted his weight by a hair, Without missing a beat, Gu Jiyup pivoted on his heel, unleashing an absolute hurricane of rapid-fire strikes. But no matter how gorgeous and flowing that blade work looked, he couldn't manage to land a single scratch on Gu Yangchan. And while he was effortlessly dancing through that storm of steel, Gu Yangchan's sharp eyes had already isolated the fatal flaw buried deep within his opponent's rhythm. Sure, the way Gu Jiyup linked his different stances together was buttery smooth. But if someone violently shattered that momentum mid-swing, his entire offensive chain would completely fall apart. Figuring that out, Gu Yangchuan clamped a hand flat against his own chest. He instantly cranked the dormant qi inside his veins into absolute overdrive. The exact microsecond Gu Jiyeop hoisted his weapon for another crushing overhead swing, Gu Yangchuan tightly balled his fist. He detonated all that pent-up energy, launching a devastating shockwave straight through the empty air. That violently blistering force slammed into Gu Jiyeop, instantly seizing that massive opening. Gu Yangchuan dashed in and delivered a brutal follow-up hook, launching the guy straight into the solid stone of the corner wall. With the winner practically set in stone, Gu Yangchuan glared down at him. He spat out every single syllable with ice in his voice. Do you want to know what pisses me off the absolute most? I honestly don't give a damn how you treat me. I don't care how you look at me, and I couldn't care less if you're trying to steal the patriarch's throne. I genuinely don't. But the one thing that actually makes me sick is you trying to get your filthy hands on something you're not even close to being worthy of. Since you're so utterly obsessed with stealing what belongs to someone else, maybe I should just snap one of your arms right now. I'll make damn sure you never entertain a trashy thought like that ever again. But just as he was literally about to shatter the guy's bones, the second elder abruptly jumped in and shut it down. That is quite enough. We are done here for today. Afterward, the older man leaned in close, viciously scolding him in a hushed tone. Going completely scorched earth like that. Aren't you terrified the Grand Elder is going to use this as the perfect excuse to put a target on your back? Gu Yangshan, however, just shrugged, looking completely and utterly unbothered. Hey, if he had the guts to challenge me to a spar, he should have been fully prepared to get dropped. Besides, didn't he just pick himself up and walk it off perfectly fine anyway? Look, I never even planned on becoming the patriarch in the first place. The absolute second those careless words left his mouth, the second elder jammed an angry finger right between his eyes. He barked furiously. As a child of the main bloodline, it is your absolute duty to carry that massive weight. But Gu Yangchan's expression remained as completely blank as a stone wall. Whoever is desperate enough for that dusty chair can just take it. What does any of that have to do with me? Then, with a half-sarcastic smirk, he casually pointed a thumb at Wisiola, who was standing quietly right beside him. Honestly, at this point she's probably way more qualified to run this place than I am. But the very moment that joke slipped out, he totally froze in his tracks, struck by a sudden thought. Wait a minute. When exactly did she even start picking up swordplay? If she was actually the legendary Sword Venerable's personal disciple, then logically she should have been doing intensive hands-on yet she basically spent 24/7 practically glued to Gu Yangchan's side like a shadow. So when in the world did she actually find the secret hours to grind her skills? And, to make things even weirder, the Wiseola he rewinding to that bitter winter in his past life right when he crossed paths with Yiseola again. How did it all go down? Why were these past life memories, stuff that should be permanently burned into his brain, suddenly completely blank? Right in the middle of his crisis, the second elder tried to make a slick exit. Catching that sneaky move, Gu Yangchan instantly barked out to block his escape. Hold up, second elder. Where do you think you are sneaking off to? Do not tell me you already conveniently forgot our little deal. Busted. The old man aggressively slumped back into his seat, groaning as he asked what the kid actually wanted. In Gu Yangchan's mind, if you are cashing in a favor with a top-tier elder, you gotta aim ridiculously high. Like demanding a VIP escort straight to Sichuan. But instead of freaking out, the second elder basically exhaled his entire soul in pure relief. Man, I thought you were going to demand something completely unhinged. But you just want to take a little trip to Sichuan. Easy for Gu Yangchan, though this was the exact opposite of simple. Because Sichuan was not exactly his local park, he could not just casually stroll in and out. Plus, for the sole heir of the Gu clan's main bloodline to just wander hundreds of miles away, he needed a rock-solid alibi that absolutely nobody would question. Hearing his dilemma, a light bulb instantly went off in the elder's head. Why not just crash the Tang family's weapon expo? Every single year around this season, the Tang clan throws a massive flex, inviting all the elite factions to show off their legendary master-crafted gear. Honestly, whether you actually show up or ghost them does not matter at all. But slapping that on an application as your excuse to ditch home flawless. The split second those words hit his ears, Gu Yangchan instantly regretted opening his mouth and desperately tried to backtrack. Whoa, second elder, chill. The whole Sichuan thing was literally just a prank. How about you just slide me some travel cash instead? But the old fox was already locking in on weaponized ignorance. Oh, so you want to pack your bags and dip right this second? Man, to think this grandpa completely missed young Yangchan's burning passion for travel. Getting old is truly terrifying. Sensing the conversation plummeting off a cliff, Gu Yangchan desperately pivoted. Fine, if cash is off the table, at least cough up a high-tier spirit pill. But the elder just kept perfectly dodging his words. Say less. This grandpa will get a crew together. and ship you straight to Sichuan immediately. While we are at it, I will even show you the ultimate flex of an elder's authority." Gu Yangchuan absolutely lost his mind. "Hold on, I take it back, cancel the request. Give me literally anything else, just do not exile me to Sichuan." Before he could even finish his sentence, the second elder cranked his volume to max. "Fantastic, consider it done. I will personally kickstart your journey right now." Defeated Gu Yangchuan could only scream internally. This insanely cheap fossil absolutely refused to drop a single dime. Did he? Minutes later, thanks to the elder's aggressive fast-tracking, Gu Yangchuan was practically shoved out the door and onto the brutal road to Sichuan. But the second the kid was out of sight, the sword venerable Yi Hyogun violently shifted the vibe. His voice dropped. "Since the young master has officially dipped, you will be the one scrubbing this courtyard from now on." The second elder scowled, visibly disgusted by the chore. But ultimately he swallowed his pride and grabbed the broom with a completely sour face. Swiping at the dirt, he casually muttered, "Well, now that it is just us two geezers, the vibe is pretty dead. Mind if I vent a little while I sweep?" A couple of days ago, the patriarch randomly cornered me asking where the medical immortal was hiding. Judging by his face, he was definitely digging for intel on someone else's orders. "So tell me, senior, why exactly are you hunting down the medical immortal?" The absolute second those words hit the air, the temperature in the courtyard plummeted to sub-zero. The elder unconsciously dug his fingers right into the wooden doorframe. But the crazy old man did not hit the brakes. "If you do not want to spill about that, let me throw another question your way. That granddaughter of yours, Yi Siola, right? She is not exactly human, is she?" The only response he got was a bone-chilling silence from Yi. Wee Hogan's voice hit like absolute frostbite, slicing straight to the bone. "Second elder, you're stepping way out of bounds. I highly suggest you watch your mouth." But the old man wasn't backing off. "Every breathing creature gives off a specific energy. Humans aren't any different. But when I first locked eyes with that kid at the Julong gathering, I couldn't feel a single drop of humanity in her. If you're seriously banking on the medical immortal, to fix that girl, you need a massive reality check. You know damn well that whatever she has, it isn't just some sickness." He didn't even get to finish his sentence. Wei Hogan shutting him down ice cold. "Second elder, drop it. That kid is human." The second elder's mouth twitched, but he ended up choking down the rest of his argument. "Fine," he muttered. "If you're hell-bent on shielding her, I'm dropping the subject. It's not like my 2 cents ever mattered anyway." Meanwhile, a heavy toxic dread was slowly creeping into Weehogian's chest. So what if she wasn't entirely human? As long as Siola stayed with him, he was ready to put his own life on the line for her. But here's the crazy part he was totally clueless about. Inside that exact same room, Siola had completely vanished into thin air. Flash forward, dead of night. The squad was completely burnt out from the journey, finally pulling over to scrap together some dinner. And Gu Yangchuan, he totally ignored the break, isolating himself to grind his cultivation routine like an absolute maniac. But it didn't take long for his body to totally crash, sending him face first into the dirt. It had been 10 whole days since they hit the road, and despite sweating blood every single day, his internal energy boost was just embarrassingly weak. Sure, the Demon Spring absorption art was straight up cheat codes for skyrocketing his power levels in record time, but at the end of the day, it was the Heavenly Demon's signature technique. Playing around with that was basically asking for a death wish. He literally just scored a second chance at life. No way in hell was he letting himself speedrun back down that same doomed path. But out of nowhere, a high-pitched scream sliced straight through the dark forest. Gu Yangchuan bolted upright, sprinting over to Mu Yun to demand answers. Instead, he found the maids completely frozen, staring dead at the carriage like they had just seen a ghost. Pushing past them, he ripped the heavy curtain back. And boom. Siola was just chilling right there. Not a single soul saw her sneak in. Turns out, right before Gu Yangchuan packed up for Sichuan, the little girl had actually begged her granddad to let her tag along. But why Hogan? He instantly shut it down. Zero hesitation. Siola was visibly crushed and super confused. But why was it totally fine for the Julong gathering? Wee Hojin sighed, trying his best to break it down. Because back then, even if you stirred up total chaos, I had plenty of eyes watching your back. This Sichuan trip is a whole different beast. There's no safety net for you out there. Hearing that, Siola looked like she finally took the hint. She quietly slipped into Gu Yangchuan's carriage, playing the good kid and helping him fix up his travel gear. But out of nowhere, a super weird scratching sound echoed inside the cabin. Whipping her head around to check, Siola froze, because in the very next split second, a random hand shot out of the shadows, violently shoving her right into the massive wooden supply crate. Before she could even scream, those exact same creepy hands warped into view, performing some kind of twisted gesture right by her face. Seconds later, her vision started glitching out. Everything went black, leaving her knocked out cold at the bottom of the trunk. And that was exactly how they ended up in this current mess. Listening to her wild story, Gu Yangchon, Mu Yon, and the entire maid squad were just standing there absolutely speechless. Seeing their totally deadpan reactions, Ciola figured they must have missed a detail, so she literally re-explained the entire crazy incident from the top. But honestly, it still sounded like absolute fiction to everyone listening. But whatever. After catching their breath, Ciola officially and hilariously became the newest hitchhiker on their crazy road trip to Sichuan. Now at first, Gu Yongchun originally planned to dispatch a guard to drag her right back home, but Shanxi was already way too far in the rearview mirror. Plus, their remaining food supplies were running dangerously tight. Burning through extra rations for a round trip just was not happening, so he was stuck dragging her along for the ride. But right at that exact moment, a massive red flag triggered. He instantly barked at Mu Yan to slam the brakes on the carriage and brace for a bloodbath. His razor-sharp senses locked onto 4 demonic beasts prowling through the shadows. Wait. Make that 3, 2, 1. And in that split second of confusion, the final monster exploded from the brush, launching its massive body straight at their convoy. Gu Yongchun instantly sparked his inner chi. He was literally a millisecond away from obliterating the creature himself, when a mysterious shadow materialized out of thin air. A blinding flash of silver tore through the darkness, effortlessly slicing the hulking beast perfectly in half. As the dust settled, Mu Yan quickly stepped up to thank the girl for the epic assist, while Wei Seola happily waved at her like they were already besties. But the absolute second this stranger locked eyes with them, Gu Yongchun's blood ran ice cold. His past life memories violently slapped him in the face. This was the terrifyingly unhinged cold-blooded demon, Sword Queen herself Namgung Bia, but here is the crazy twist. Back then, whenever she finished butchering her targets for the heavenly demon, she literally had to rely on Gu Yongchun to hold her hand and personally guide her back to the demonic sect. Because despite being a walking lethal weapon, this girl was hilariously hopeless with directions. Snapping back to the present, Namgung Bia actually spoke up first, asking in a deadpan tone, "Are you guys heading to Sichuan? Do you mind if I tag along?" Gu Yongchun instantly shot her down, without missing a single beat, blatantly lying to her face that Sichuan was definitely not on their itinerary. Because getting tangled up with this absolute psycho again was the literal last thing on his bucket list. Crossing his arms, he doubled down. "Look, we have zero solid proof that you are actually a member of the legendary Namgung family. So there is absolutely no way I am just letting a random stranger crash our road trip." Hearing that, a spark of realization flashed across Namgung Baya's face, and then without any warning, pure raw lightning violently erupted around her entire body, blasting a terrifying pillar of energy straight into the clouds. Gu Yongchun's jaw practically hit the dirt. He never expected this crazy girl to go totally nuclear just to verify her ID. She was literally flexing the Namgung clan's most guarded and overpowered secret technique, the legendary Emperor's sword form. In a blind panic, Mu Yun aggressively shoved his blade against her throat, but she just casually powered down her glowing aura, blankly staring at them. Is this enough to prove my Namgung bloodline? Cornered by her insane logic, Gu Yongchun was forced to swallow his pride and admit she was the real deal. Still, he stood his ground, arguing back. "Look, even so, I am not traveling with a ticking time bomb who casually drops a literal nuke over nothing." But against all logic and reason, even after getting brutally curved, Namgung Bia stubbornly trailed behind their wagon on foot, like a silent, brooding ghost. And just as Gu Yongchun was gearing up to warn Wei Seola to keep her distance from the walking hazard, the little girl was already skipping right alongside the deadly swordswoman, yapping a million miles an hour about her absolute favorite ways to deep fry a frog. A vein dangerously throbbed on Gu Yongchun's forehead. He instantly snatched the kid by her collar, aggressively whispering, "Are you out of your mind? Did my warnings literally just go in one ear and out the other?" But when he glanced back and caught that utterly clueless, super pathetic puppy dog look hiding in Namgung Baya's eyes, all his intense frustration evaporated into one massively exhausted sigh. "Look, I get that you are some VIP princess from the Namgung family, but what I honestly cannot wrap my head around is why a sheltered girl like you is wandering through a deadly wasteland totally solo." Namgung Bei dodged his gaze, her voice dropping to an embarrassed whisper. "I swear I actually started the journey with the rest of my group, but somewhere along the road I completely lost my way." She peeked back up, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Wait, are you guys seriously not heading towards Sichuan?" Gu Yangchun did not miss a beat, shaking his head flatly. "Nope, we are not. Beside him, Yi Seola completely froze. She whipped her head toward Gu Yangqian, her jaw practically hitting the floor. Young master, are we actually not going to Sichuan busted right on the spot? Gu Yangqian threw his hands up in total defeat. Alright, fine. Since you are obviously going to tail us no matter what I say, just tag along, but listen closely. You trail behind the carriage in dead silence. Zero extra drama. Namgungbei nodded, frantically accepting the terms. A heartbeat later, she suddenly piped up to ask for his name. Gu Yangqian smoothly dropped a fake identity. Gu Clan. Gu Geoleap. And just like that, the bizarre squad trekked forward for another 2 whole days. Somewhere along the line, Yi Seola had hopped out of the carriage, gluing herself right to Namgungbei's side. She yapped endlessly the entire route. Obviously, this completely tanked the entire convoy's travel speed. Annoyed, Gu Yangxian barked a strict order for Yi Seola to get her butt back inside the ride immediately. But Yi Seola dug her heels in, demanding that Namgungbei get a seat too. When Gu Yangqian shot that down without a second thought, Yi Seola threw a mini tantrum and refused to board, cornering Gu Yangqian into turning to Muyon. At this miserable pace, when do we actually hit our destination? Muyon shrugged helplessly. If we maintained our initial speed, we would arrive in 1 day. But crawling like this, it is going to drag out to at least 3. Should we seriously just let that woman crash inside the carriage too, taking that in? Gu Yangqian released a soul-crushing sigh. Screw it. Let's just hunt down a nearby village and take a breather. Following another brutal 2 days of grinding through the wilderness, they finally stumbled upon a tiny village to crash for the night. Tension drained from Muyon's shoulders instantly. Thank God. At least for tonight we are dodging the dirt and sleeping under a real roof. Meanwhile, Yi Seola, who was literally getting a piggyback ride from Namgungbei, started whining loudly about wanting a sleepover with her brand new big sister. Catching sight of that nonsense, Gu Yangqian's face darkened, snapping at Yi Seola to drop to the ground right that second. She is the heir to a high-tier clan. You treating her like a pack mule when you are just a maid is insane. But right in that exact moment, Yi Seola's eyes locked onto something in the distance. Just down the road, a squad flexing the exact same uniform as Namgungbei was sprinting directly toward their crew. As they closed the gap, the white-haired kid leading the charge yelled out, dripping with desperate panic, "Nuna, where the heck have you been vanishing to these past few days? We tore the entire area apart searching for you." Namgungbei shrank back guiltily, muttering under her breath, "I kinda just got lost." Catching that excuse, the kid groaned with massive frustration. "Didn't I literally tell you that we should have just tied you to a leash and dragged you along? But for Namgungbei, getting publicly dragged like that was absolute torture." Soon enough, the boy's sharp gaze drifted straight over to Gu Yangqian and Yi Seola, and in that split second, Gu Yangqian clocked exactly who this kid was. This was the legendary Namgung Cheonjun himself, the absolute beast destined to dominate the martial world as one of the 5 swords, the iconic Thunder Sword. Although right now he was simply repping the title of Thunder Dragon. Catching on, Gu Yangqian stepped up, taking the lead on introductions. "Gu Geolip. Massive honor crossing paths with the Thunder Dragon out here." Namgung Cheonjun rubbed the back of his neck, visibly awkward. "Man, you are hyping me up way too much." But in the blink of an eye, his tone completely flipped. "That being said, why exactly are you hanging around my older sister?" Once Gu Yangqian laid out the entire chaotic timeline, from the absolute start to the current mess. Namgung Cheonjun quickly showed his gratitude, even throwing in an offer for 2 premium guest rooms. Initially, Gu Yangqian was totally ready to reject the handout. Getting tangled up any further with Namgungbia was literally his worst-case scenario. But Muyan stepped up, whispering a harsh reality check. Every single inn across the village was completely booked solid. Plus, after roughing it in the wild for days, their entire crew was running on fumes. Crashing here was clearly the most logical move. Catching that drift, Gu Yangqian ground his teeth together and reluctantly gave the green light. Flashing back to his past life, the absolute first thing Namgungbia pulled after going full demon was completely obliterating her own bloodline. She slaughtered them single-handedly. From the head patriarch down to her own little brother, nobody made it out alive. That absolute bloodbath was exactly how she scored the legendary title of Demon Sword Queen. Gu Yangqian always figured she snapped simply because she despised the snobby elite clans. But plotting it out now, her vibe with the Thunder Dragon actually seemed incredibly tight. What really scrambled his brain was her actual power level. Judging by the insane moves she flexed recently, she absolutely outclassed the Thunder Dragon by a massive landslide. Yet out in the martial world, she was practically a ghost. No fancy titles, zero hype, just dead silence. And her little bro didn't give off psycho energy either. So what on earth triggered her catastrophic meltdown in the future? Right as he was spiraling down that rabbit hole, Gu Yangchan stepped outside and literally bumped chests with Namgung Cheonjun. He played it cool, tossing a polite thank you for surrendering the VIP suites only for the guy to aggressively shoulder check him. Out of nowhere, the dude's tone turned freezing. Know your absolute place. With your garbage stats, you don't even deserve to breathe near my sister. I have zero clue how you brainwashed my gullible sister, but try it again and I will literally slice you into ribbons. And that annoying brat clinging to her gets the exact same VIP treatment. Hearing that unhinged threat, Gu Yangchan stood completely paralyzed. Was this psycho off his meds or what? But at that precise second, Namgung Bia slid out of her doorway. And the microsecond Namgung Chunjun spotted her, his entire sinister vibe vanished like a flipped switch. Flashing a ridiculously sunny smile, he cheerfully chimed, "Oh, absolutely no need for the formalities. Hosting young Master Gu is a genuine honor." Then keeping up that sickeningly sweet grin, he gently nudged his sister down the hall, leaving Gu Yangchan completely buffering in pure shock. Wow, so the entire bloodline is legitimately unhinged. Right on cue, Mu Yen popped up to announce that morning chow was ready. Striding toward the mess hall, Gu Yangchan's brain was locked onto one single mission. Scarf down the food dip immediately, and put maximum but the second he kicked the double doors open, he caught Wee Sioa clinging to Namgung Bia like superglue once again. Catching that chaotic dynamic, Gu Yangchan dropped his volume, whispering a frantic warning. "Are you positive this is your seat? Because your brother is glaring hard enough to literally laser a hole through my skull." Hearing that, Namgung Bia spun around, looking totally bewildered. But her two-faced brother had already swapped his death glare for that sickeningly innocent golden boy smile. Even though Gu Yangchan was totally baffled by this guy's bipolar theatrics, at least they were splitting paths momentarily. So, right after downing their meal, Gu Yangchan dropped his official goodbyes to the swordswoman. She visibly hesitated, looking desperate to drop a word, but ultimately choked it back down. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching toxic stench flooded the air, forcing her hands up to muffle her nose purely on reflex. And strolling onto the scene was none other than the golden boy himself, Namgung Cheonjun. "Sister, why weren't you chilling at our table?" But through Namgung Bia's cursed vision, her beloved little brother's entire aura was practically radiating that overwhelmingly foul, rotting odor. While he smoothly lectured her about sticking to her rightful spot next time, Namgung Bia could only mumble a timid apology before scrambling to invent a quick exit strategy. Yet, in the literal blink of an eye, she was right back to shadow walking behind Gu Yangchan's squad. Witnessing that ultimate betrayal caused Cheonjun's angelic mask to instantly shatter. What an absolute pack of pests. Looks like somebody desperately needs a reality check. Flash forward through 10 grueling days of travel. The crew finally hit Sichuan, touching down at the doorstep of the legendary righteous faction that had dominated the landscape for centuries. The Sichuan Tang clan. Stacked against the other heavy-hitting factions, their overall footprint might have felt a bit underwhelming. But when we talk about blacksmithing and lethal toxins, these guys absolutely dominated the Gu Yangchan, however, was totally not vibing with the scenery. The legendary Tang Weaponry Expo was strictly a 3-day event, giving him exactly 3 days to track down that hidden vault. His only lead. The treasury was buried somewhere inside this massive estate, navigating a compound this giant. Where was he even supposed to kick off the search? If he completely struck out, dropping the intel to the Beggars sect would literally be his absolute last resort. Suddenly, a sharp gasp yanked him right out of his head. Wiseola was totally zoning out at the view, her eyes practically glowing. "Wow, this spot is unreal. Young master, check it out, the fireflies are literally putting on a light show under the moon. And look at that gorgeous lake down there." Without missing a beat, she snatched his hand and hauled him down the slope, totally hyped. But the second their feet hit the bottom, reality checked in. That breathtaking lake, yeah, it was barely a glorified puddle. Yangchan instantly delivered 2 swift chops to her head. Unfazed, Siola brushed it off like it was nothing, snapped off a couple of tiny wildflowers, and flashed him this massive, cheeky grin. "You have been stressing out this whole trip, young master. I just wanted to change the vibe a bit. Why don't you just spill what is eating at you? I might actually be useful, you know." Catching her drift, Yangchan ditched the small talk and cut straight to the chase. If somebody buried a massive stash in a compound this huge, how would you sniff it out? Siola instantly puffed her cheeks, totally salty. If the loot is that good, why would anyone even stash it away in the first place? Right on cue, a sharp voice sliced through the air behind them. "Who exactly are you? 2 random outsiders do not get to just stroll around here." Stepping out of the shadows was Tang Soyale, the infamous poison consort who would eventually solo thousands of demonic enemies. Oh, and the exact same girl Yangchan had murdered in his past life. The memory was still crystal clear. Stalking toward her step by agonizing step while she sat there blinded and completely defenseless. He had iced her with a single question. Is this really how you go out? Pathetic. You genuinely thought your precious family made it out, but sitting here all alone, what did you actually think you could fix? Even without her sight, she recognized that chilling voice, instantly whispering back with zero fight left. Probably not a damn thing. Then why play the martyr? But she totally ignored his question, flipping the script and asking why he even showed up to begin with. Yang Shan's hand clamped around her throat in a flash. Why else I am here to snuff out your miserable life? Instead of panicking, a weirdly peaceful smile crossed her face. I am the one who messed up with you. Going blind was the only way I finally saw the truth. I really should have let go of my pride way sooner. If we had more time, I would honestly hope. But before she could drop the final word, a sickening crunch echoed as Yang Shan cleanly snapped her neck. Snapping back to reality, Soyol was currently pointing a finger dead at him. Are you deaf? She snapped. Keep ignoring me, and I will absolutely force you to. Her threat was cut short as a heavy hand clamped onto her shoulder. Enter Namgung Bei. She leaned in close, murmuring something straight into the ear of Soyol. Soyol's entire demeanor flipped like a switch. I am Tang Soyol of the Tang clan. I totally crossed the line with our esteemed guest from the Gu clan, who was invited here by my family. Seriously, my bad, please overlook my attitude. Her eyes instantly frosted over. Young Master Gu, she snapped. Care to explain what you're doing creeping around Tang territory this late? We don't exactly roll out the red carpet for trespassers. Catching the hint, Gu Yangchan tossed out a quick half-hearted apology. Without skipping a beat, he snatched Wasiola by the wrist and booked it. Once they were out of earshot, Tang Soyol finally let out the rant she had been holding in. That Gu guy is a total menace. Like, does having a pretty face mean you get a free pass to act like a jerk? Guys who skate by on their looks are literally the worst. Hearing that Namgung Ba literally stopped in her tracks, genuinely processing his visuals. Tilting her head, she asked with absolute innocence. Wait, so you think he's hot? So Yol's face exploded into a bright tomato red as she wildly waved her arms. No, oh my gosh, no, that is not what I meant. I'm just saying, even if you look like a troll, you should at least have a decent personality. Fast forward to the crack of dawn. Just as Gu Yangchun was strapping up for his morning grind, Bia suddenly rolled up, bringing her absolute nightmare of a little brother. Yangchan's expression immediately flatlined into pure exhaustion. Great, just my luck. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he sighed. What do you want now? Dropping a dangerously sweet smile, Namgung Cheonjun replied. The Tang family is hosting a massive breakfast for everyone. My sister really wanted you to tag along. Zero hesitation. Yang Chan shot down the invite on the spot. But before he could even blink, Chunjun's fingers clamped down on his wrist like a vice. His mouth was still smiling, but his eyes were pure ice. I said, come with us. That flipped a switch inside Yang Chan. He had already said no, and this little psycho really thought he could manhandle him. Instantly, a massive shockwave of lethal aura erupted from Yang Chan's core. Chunjun's cocky smirk vanished, and he yanked his hand back. The air between them suddenly felt heavy enough to choke on. Knowing a brawl would ruin his actual plans, Yang Chan quickly defused the ticking time bomb. You know what, I'm starving anyway. Let's go grab some grub. Throwing a deceptively buddy-buddy arm around Cheonjun's neck, he leaned in and dropped his voice to a dead whisper. You better fix your face, little bro. Your precious sister is standing right there. Boiling with a murderous rage, Cheonjun could do nothing but choke down his fury. Cut to the Tang clan's grand dining hall. The massive table was absolutely loaded with violently red, aggressively spicy dishes. For Yang Chan, whose spice tolerance was basically zero, this was a waking nightmare. After intensely scanning the minefield of food, he cautiously grabbed what looked like the safest, blandest dumpling on the plate. Right as he brought it to his mouth, he caught So Yol staring holes into the side of his head. It gave him major déjà vu. In his past life, she used to watch him with that exact same intense, totally unreadable glare. Guess some things never change. Shaking it off, he took a bite. And immediately regretted everything. A nuclear blast of chili fire coated his tongue, leaving him desperately gasping for air and making pathetic little hissing sounds. Out of nowhere, a chilled glass of water slid into his hand. A second later, a perfectly plain, non-spicy cut of beef dropped onto his plate. He glanced over. It was Namgung Bia, totally unfazed. That random act of kindness actually made the tips of Yang Chan's ears burn pink. Meanwhile, sitting across from them, Cheonjun looked ready to commit a felony. You dead meat. I'm going to rip you apart. A few minutes later, Soyol awkwardly shuffled over and slid into the empty seat right next to Yang Chan. Raising an eyebrow, he gave her a puzzled look. Miss Tang needs something. She instantly panicked, her hands flying everywhere. No, I mean, young Master Gu. Are you, like, seeing anyone right now? But before she could get the full question out, Cheonjun loudly crashed the conversation. So that massive space under this dining hall, it's an underground sparring arena, right? Tung Juyi, the heir to the family, casually nodded. Yeah, it's an old battleground, strictly meant for members of our bloodline. It's ancient. Honestly, since we all have our own private dojos now, that creepy basement just gathers dust. The second those words left his mouth, a dark, twisted curiosity lit up Cheonjun's eyes. If that's the vibe, why not head down and check it out? The moment those words hit Gu Yangchan's ears, a knot of pure dread tightened in his gut. What is this absolute psycho scheming this time? Stepping onto the massive training grounds. The crew's jaws practically hit the floor. Yo, this place is massive, they hyped up. Tang Ju, however, just shrugged it off with a deadpan stare. I seriously don't get why the ancestors flexed this hard building an arena this big. It's totally overkill. Cutting through the chatter, Namgung Cheonjun lazily whipped a wooden sword through the air. Feigning total innocence, he smirked. Since we just stuffed ourselves, let's burn off some calories. Young Master Gu, care for a little sparring match. Click, it all made sense now. This was the snake's endgame from the jump. One glance at that smug, punchable face screamed the truth. This entire setup was just a flimsy excuse for Namgung Cheonjun to beat him into a bloody pulp. Playing it cool, Gu Yangchan purposely slumped his shoulders, dripping with fake humility. Man, with garbage-tier skills like mine, how could I ever step up to a Thunder Dragon? Tang Xiaoyol instantly jumped to his defense. Big brother Cheonjun, you and young Master Gu are on completely different levels. Age skill, it's not even close. That's ridiculously unfair. What if his pretty face gets wrecked by mistake? But Namgung Cheonjun already had his counter ready. No stress. We'll both lock our internal energy away. Think of it as a friendly coaching session. The real question is, does young Master Gu have the guts to step into the ring? Staring down the blatant disrespect painted all over Namgung Cheonjun's face. A dark, razor-sharp grin slowly spread across Gu Yangchan's lips. If that's the deal, then I'm actually curious to see if young Master Namgung's level is actually as hyped as everyone claims. Snap. A thick vein pulsed furiously on Namgung Cheonjun's forehead. Bet. Let's see what you're really made of, you little punk. The second the match kicked off, Namgung Cheonjun blitzed forward like a rabid dog, slashing his blade ruthlessly toward Gu Yangchan's skull. Swish. Gu Yangchan fluidly pivoted, letting the strike slice through empty air. After ghosting 2 consecutive swings, the truth clicked in Gu Yangchan's mind. This clown was just testing the waters. The actual bloodbath was moments away from dropping. Watching the clash from the sidelines, absolute panic gripped Tang Xiaoyol's features. From day one, she was never wired like the other kids. While toddlers her age chased fluffy puppies, she was out there chilling with literal apex predators, unfazed by tigers and wolves. Weak, harmless pets bored her. She was obsessed with raw, untamed power. Thanks to that wild obsession, she always felt like she never fit into any crowd until the universe dropped him into her life. One glance. That was all it took for his magnetic, fiercely unique aura to pull her in entirely. Her heart drummed violently against her ribs. Catching sneaky glimpses of him became her new addiction. He practically radiated main character energy. Honestly, even him just sipping water looked stupidly gorgeous. The urge to close the distance between them was practically driving her crazy. Wait, is this insane feeling what they call falling in love? Crack, a deafening blast shattered her daydream. Her eyes went wide, locking onto the arena in sheer disbelief. Namgung Cheonjun's wooden sword was completely obliterated into splinters. The so-called genius stared dumbfounded at the broken, his brain totally short-circuited, failing to process how his weapon just exploded on impact. Sure, he went easy on the first couple of swings, but everything after that was zero hesitation, max power. In that one split second of shock, Gu Yangchan launched a brutal fist straight at his face, dropping an ice-cold reality check. Genius or not, zoning out in the middle of a fight is a rookie mistake. If this was an actual deathmatch, I would have flatlined you 3 times over by now. Those biting words slapped Namgung Cheonjun right back to reality. He darted out of the way in a flash, narrowly dodging the cheap shot. Then Gu Yangchan chimed in again, his voice dripping with pure sarcasm. Bro, I thought this was supposed to be a friendly sparring match. The least you could do is show me a move that doesn't actually suck. That comment absolutely set Namgung Cheonjun off. Snatching up a fresh blade, he instantly started channeling a massive wave of aura. A split second later, he brought the weapon crashing down like a literal lightning strike. Gu Yangchan's reflexes kicked into overdrive, barely sidestepping what was meant to be a fatal blow. Right then and there, Gu Yangchan's patience snapped completely over this trashy, rule-breaking behavior. Across the arena, his opponent kept cranking his aura to the absolute max, even whipping out his ultimate secret technique. only to watch Gu Yangchan effortlessly shatter that attack to pieces a blink later. Gu Yangchan's gaze went totally pitch black. "Listen up, punk. I'm officially done playing nice." The instant those words dropped, he delivered a devastating full-power low blow right where it hurts. The sheer impact made every single onlooker bug their eyes out in pure shock, and that absolutely mind-numbing wave of sheer agony ripped a hilariously high-pitched shriek straight from Namgung Cheonjun's lungs. Flashing a totally wicked smirk, Gu Yangchan taunted. "Oops, didn't crack anything important, did I?" Even while completely wrecked, the defeated guy refused to just take the L, spitting through clenched teeth. "You actually have the nerve to call yourself a real warrior. I'm telling every elite family about your dirty tricks today. You are utterly cancelled. You'll never show your face in public, for as long as you breathe." But Gu Yangchan fired back without missing a beat. "Oh, real mature. And what about your track record? How many innocent lives have you completely destroyed? We're talking at least 12, right?" Grabbing his rival firmly by the arm, Tang Jui realized things were about to get incredibly ugly and sprinted over. "Young Master Gu, please, you already bagged the win. Just drop it," but Gu Yangchan wasn't having any of it. "Are you blind?" He trashed the tournament rules first, and then started running his mouth. "You actually believe that was just an oopsie in the heat of battle? The dude is way older than me." Tang Jui dropped his voice to an anxious whisper. "Look, he still belongs to the almighty Namgung family. If you push this over the edge, you know exactly what kind of massive nightmare is waiting for us." Gu Yangchan totally ignored the warning. "Bro, him being a Namgung is the exact and only reason I've been holding back my punches. If the tables were turned right now and I pulled this stunt, would you honestly step in to save my neck?" That brutal reality check left Tang Jui totally frozen, mouth hanging open. A split second later, crack! A sickening snap echoed through the air as Namgung Chunjun's arm was bent completely backwards, ruthlessly snapped in half by Gu Yangchan right in front of everyone. Striding away from the chaotic scene, reality finally hit Gu Yangchan like a truck. He had definitely just sparked a massive dumpster fire. If the second elder discovered he just practically ruined the Namgung heir's future, the old man was going to absolutely lose his mind. Or honestly, the crazy geezer might just slow clap and cheer, "Epic job, kid," considering that spoiled brat totally begged for it. Suddenly, someone tightly gripped the hem of his jacket from behind. Spinning around, Gu Yangchan locked eyes with Namgung Bia, who was staring right through his soul. "Drop the act. What's your real name?" Gu Yangchan swiftly brushed her hand away, his brow furrowing. "Didn't I literally just say it? I'm Gu Jolyeb." But the girl wasn't buying it, deadpan, calling out his obvious bluff. That single call-out sent Gu Yangchan's brain spiraling into absolute overdrive. "Why are you so obsessed with my identity? Trying to plot some revenge for your trashed brother?" Yet glancing back at her totally blank expression, he immediately scrapped that paranoid theory. Out of nowhere, she closed the gap between them, softly wrapping her fingers around his hand and whispered, "I won't ask again. Who are you really?" Realizing she was absolutely not going to drop this, Gu Yangchan let out an incredibly exhausted, defeated sigh. He finally threw down an ultimatum. "Fine. I talk, but you stop stalking me. Deal." The very second those words reached her ears, Namgung Bei frantically bobbed her head. Gu Yangchan cleared his throat and finally dropped his name, Gu Yangchan. A soft pink dusted the cheeks of Namgung Bei as she whispered it back to herself. Little did she know those 3 syllables were about to violently crash into her destiny, tying them together forever. Fast forward to him dipping out of the Tang training grounds. Gu Yangchan was dead set on hunting down that secret vault completely solo. He knew damn well that if Mu Yan caught wind of how brutally he had just wrecked the golden boy of the Namgung clan, the guy would glue himself to his side 24/7 for protection, completely ruining the mission. Meanwhile, the second the gossip dropped, Mu Yan practically tore the estate apart. But his young master had vanished like an absolute ghost. Even Yi Seola was totally clueless about his location. Mu Yan furiously rubbed his temples, a massive migraine brewing. Please do not tell me this kid went into hiding. After putting a Namgung VIP in the dirt, right next to him though, Yi Seola just stared off into the horizon, quiet as a mouse. Cut to the pitch-black woods where Gu Yangchan was heaving and complaining. It is not even fall, so where on earth am I supposed to find a maple tree out here? Was that whole legend just cap? The lore states that centuries ago the Gyumchan Yan clan was absolutely stacked. Not only did they boast the most overpowered martial artist of the era, but they literally controlled the cash flow of the entire Central Plains. But somehow, this god-tier syndicate got wiped off the map overnight. History books swear that every single piece of loot the Jimshon Yan clan hoarded was buried right underneath a pure white maple tree that stayed blooming year-round. Right on cue, the stomach of Gu Yangchan unleashed a massive echoing rumble. He was instantly ready to tap out. Screw this at least, I gave it an honest shot. But the second those words left his lips, Yi Seola popped out of nowhere, shoving a glowing medicinal fruit right into his face. Gu Yangchan snatched it up on autopilot and scarfed it down. Hold up, do not tell me that giant sack you are hauling is literally just snacks. Yi Seola nodded like that was the most normal thing ever. But a split second later, the brain of Gu Yangchan finally caught up, his eyes bulging. Wait a minute, why are you even here? Yi Seola just giggled with a cheeky little grin. Dropping her massive snack stash onto the dirt, she deadpan explained that she had tracked him down, strictly by using her gut feeling. She then puffed out her chest with absolute pride, announcing, as long as Seola is on the case, young master does not have to stress over a single thing. Gu Yangchan just stared back, looking completely exhausted. Whatever. Let us just chalk that entire white maple legend up as pure fiction. Hearing him say that, Yi Seola fired back instantly, swearing she had literally just spotted it with her own two eyes. Gu Yangchan waved her off with heavy sarcasm. Oh wow, I bet it was just gorgeous. But then his face completely dropped. Hold up, what exactly did you just claim you saw? Tilting her head, Yi Seola answered. Did young master not catch it too? That totally short-circuited his brain. Was she seriously implying he had looked right at it? Without warning, Yi Seola yanked him straight over to a dead, shriveled-up chunk of wood, leaving the guy utterly dumbfounded. Stretching her eyelids wide open in pure frustration, he snapped, in what parallel universe? Is this crusty twig a white maple? Do I seriously need to drag you to an eye doctor right now? At his words, the face of Yi Seola completely crumpled into a massive pout. I am not capping. That really is a white maple. But Gu Yangchan was absolutely not buying it. Already plotting to just pack it up and head home. Out of nowhere though, a bizarre little humming noise grabbed his attention, for absolutely zero logical reason. Reality itself seemed to tear apart, opening a jagged, glowing rift right in front of Yi Seola. He instantly barked at her to step away from it. He had zero clue what that anomaly was, but every survival instinct screaming in his brain told him it was absolute bad news. But the exact second Yi Seola's fingertips grazed the surface, that tiny fissure violently ripped open, expanding right before their eyes. Gu Yangchan lunged forward to snatch her back out of danger, but a blinding white explosion instantly engulfed them both. When his vision finally cleared, he slapped a hand over his mouth, utterly speechless. That shriveled husk had morphed into a majestic white maple, pulsing with raw energy, its ghostly leaves shimmering with a crazy vivid glow. Yi Seola spun around, flashing him the absolute smuggest "I told you so" grin. See, young master, Seola wasn't capping. Meanwhile, Gu Yangchan's brain was practically short-circuiting. What in the actual world just went down? 2 seconds ago, that was literal dead wood. Did that expanding fissure just unlock the secret dungeon? And more importantly, how on earth did Yi Seola know about it? Pushed to the edge, he started rapid-firing his suspicions right at her. But the girl just hit him with the innocent, clueless act, making Gu Yangchan grit his teeth so hard his jaw literally ached. Still, his hands were totally tied here. He forced himself to shove the frustration down, mentally vowing to grill her properly once they made it back home. Right now, securing whatever was waiting inside that hidden vault was priority number one. After meticulously pacing around the glowing tree and scanning every single inch, he zeroed in on a massive crater sparking with an aggressive, crackling aura of lightning. He paused, second-guessing if jumping into a literal lightning pit was the actual entrance. But Yi Seola literally just yeeted herself straight down without a single flinch. Young master, this is the way. Hurry up and follow me. Watching her vanish, he let out a heavy sigh, braced himself and dove into the sparking abyss right behind her. What our boy entirely missed, however, was that a high-level stalker from the Namgung family had been lurking in the shadows, eagerly tracking. The exact second their boots hit the dungeon floor, Gu Yangchan shot her a ridiculously deadly glare, strictly ordering her to never ever pull a reckless stunt like that again. But she completely ignored his scolding, her face suddenly dropping into a super heavy frown. Looming right in front of them were two incredibly menacing pitch-black corridors. While Gu Yangchan was mentally crunching the odds on which route wouldn't get them instantly killed, Yi Seola boldly pointed down one of the paths, insisting with 100% certainty that this was their route. Remembering how she somehow miraculously sniffed out that glowing maple tree earlier, he figured he might as well gamble on her crazy instincts just one more time. At the exact same time, their unwanted Namgung shadow silently, but after trekking down that dark, endless tunnel for what literally felt like an eternity, Gu Yangchan heavily started questioning his own life choices. Seola, are we totally lost? Why does this hallway feel like it's literally endless? Yet she didn't sweat it for a single second. Young master, just trust Seola on this. A few minutes later, she slammed the brakes, She aggressively pointed at a void-like chamber looming straight ahead. "Young master, we made it." Completely unimpressed, he reached over and lightly bonked the top of her head. "You dragged me all this way just for this. It's literally an empty dead room." But right on cue, her tiny hands grabbed his shoulder in absolute sheer panic. Voice shaking, she barely whispered, "Young master, I think there's actually something lurking in there." As soon as those words dropped, a massive ghostly silhouette started slithering through the darkness, making his blood run completely utterly cold. He never in a million years expected a colossal demonic snake to be guarding the objective. What really blew his mind was how a terrifying monster this huge was even surviving down here. Locked up inside a perfectly sealed vault, how in the world did it even get inside? Just sensing its insanely lethal pressure, he knew this beast was green rank absolute minimum. The only silver lining, the giant reptile still seemed deeply asleep. Deciding not to test his luck, he began slowly, quietly backing away, with her in tow until two massive glowing eyes violently snapped wide open. Yanking her safely behind his back, he internally screamed, "Oh, screw this. Seriously, out of all the moments to regain consciousness, why did it have to be right now?" This kind of monstrous threat was leagues above his current pay grade. He had just snagged a second shot at a quiet life, and there was zero chance he was throwing it all away today. Bracing himself, Gu Yangchuan clenched his fists and started channeling his inner chi, but the colossal snake actually beat him to the punch. "Stand down, kid. I am not here to hurt you." Gu Yangchuan's jaw practically hit the floor. "Wait, you can talk." In response, the massive beast just rumbled with deep laughter. "I am simply wondering how a stray kid with zero ties to the Yun bloodline managed to stumble into my domain." Gu Yangchuan quickly laid out the details of their unexpected detour. Catching the story, a sudden spark of recognition flashed in the creature's eyes. But then it pushed harder, demanding his actual motive for trespassing. Instantly, Gu Yangchuan's defenses shot right back up. If this giant reptile figured out they were hunting for the secret stash, they would never walk out of here alive. So he played dumb, swearing up and down that they just got lost and tumbled in by mistake. But the beast saw right through his pathetic bluff. "You are chasing the secret treasury, aren't you? Tough break, kid. The prize you are hunting is already wiped clean. But before we go any further, I have one final question to ask you. How do you define destiny?" Gu Yangchuan just stared at the monster like it grew a second head. What kind of brain-dead question is that? The colossal snake completely froze for a second. Then it threw its head back and howled with booming laughter. Gu Yangchuan's scowl deepened. Great, the giant monster has officially lost its marbles. But just as quickly, the beast's aura shifted back to dead serious. The second I realized an outsider had breached this sanctuary, I knew the Yun family had likely faded from this world ages ago. If everything I swore to defend has already turned to dust, what am I even holding on to? My duty here is completely finished. Hearing that, Gu Yangchuan honestly assumed they were getting a free pass to leave. But in the blink of an eye, a glowing golden orb crashed down right at his feet. At the exact same time, the beast muttered something entirely cryptic. This relic was bound to be claimed sooner or later. I might as well hand it over to the one meant to wield it. Besides, a kid carrying that kind of baggage in his soul might absorb this better than anyone else. But before Gu Yangchuan could even process that puzzle, the golden orb started pulsing wildly. His expression twisted in sheer alarm. That energy was absolutely nothing like a standard mana crystal. So why on earth is my demonic absorption technique flaring up, and this bizarre sensation feels wildly different from draining regular gems? As the blinding light surged, a crushing agony ripped through his veins. Out of nowhere, Wiseola shot her hand out, slapped her palm against his spine and started flooding his core with her own pure chi. Before Gu Yangchuan, he could even figure out what was going down, his world pitched black, and he dropped to the floor completely knocked out. The massive beast broke the silence, drawing out its words. "Well then, did you get what you wanted?" Wiseola, now leaking a terrifyingly heavy aura, glared right back and snapped with raw venom. "Do you seriously have the nerve to ask if I am happy right now?" The creature coldly advised her to reel her overwhelming power back in. Energy that explosive could easily tear the boy apart regardless of him being blacked out. Wiseola obviously knew the risks, which only fueled the beast's burning curiosity. "If you are already fully aware of the danger, why are you fighting so damn hard to alter the timeline? Is this genuinely the path you want?" She just fired back a sharp counter-question. "Then why on earth did you hand over a priceless artifact to that idiot?" The creature's tone dropped into a somber, heavy growl. He was just a random glitch in the system. Standing guard for a master who was never coming back was just too isolating, so I surrendered to the void ages ago. Mid-sentence, the giant snake's massive form began crumbling into stardust. Eventually, it shattered into millions of glowing specks, drifting away into the dark cavern. Watching the spectacle fade, Wisiola just breathed out a heavy, tired sigh. Destiny is such a twisted joke. Dropping her gaze to the knocked-out boy at her feet, she whispered softly, "You are still as incredibly clueless as always. You are absolutely terrified of dying a second time, but the minute things go south, you still act like my personal meat shield without a second thought." Right then, an eerie voice rang out deep inside her own head. "Are you ready to come back to me?" But the girl barely blinked, mentally replying, "Let me pilot this a bit longer. We are not exactly out of the woods just yet." Right on cue, the creeping shadow that had been tracking their every move finally closed the distance. Wisiola pierced him with an ice-cold glare, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "You need to walk away right now, or I will turn this exact spot into your burial ground." The assassin merely scoffed, flashing a highly arrogant smirk. "I honestly cannot believe our young master took a massive L from some pathetic weakling who literally gasps for air just hiking up a tiny hill. Hand the guy over and I might actually let you live to see tomorrow." Wisiola did not miss a single beat. "Let me guess. Was this little stunt cooked up by the Namgung clan's geezer? Or did that absolute trash bag come up with it himself?" Before the insult could even settle, the thug lunged forward, slamming his blade right against her throat as he snarled, "Keep the Namgung patriarch's name out of your filthy mouth. You seriously have zero clue who you are messing with." Completely unfazed, Wisiola simply pressed a single finger to her lips. He was being way too loud. A split second later, a blinding streak of golden energy ripped through the air. Before the dude's brain could even process the insane speed, he glanced down only to realize his arm had been sliced clean off. A heartbeat later, the absolute mind-shattering